Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Turns out Jimmy Carter agrees with Donald Trump when it comes to banning Muslims from coming into the country during a crisis. That's coming up after this special report. Russia's threatening to use nuclear weapons on ISIS. Putin actually tweeted that this morning. I saw it and thought it was a joke. No, it's officially been put out by the Russian Defense Ministry. Bernie Sanders pledges to get your guns no matter what. New declassified CIA manual admits they carry out false flags. It is over the top today and jam-packed guest. Big Trump insiders going to be on air with us and more. But first, this John Bound report.
Obama boldly stated that the federal government has the Syrian refugee crisis under control.
We've hardened our defenses, from airports to financial centers to other critical infrastructure. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies have disrupted countless plots here and overseas and worked around the clock to keep us safe. Our military and counterterrorism professionals have relentlessly pursued terrorist networks overseas, disrupting safe havens in several different countries, killing Osama bin Laden.
But Obama didn't happen to mention that Representative Stephen Lynch, Democrat of Massachusetts, disclosed that a congressional investigation recently found that at least 72 people working at the Department of Homeland Security also were on the terror watch list. What would have been a scandal 30 years ago was barely mentioned today. Enter Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Soon after that statement, the liberal reactionaries on Twitter replied with fervor, even going so far as to call for Trump's assassination. Tweets included, "Can we kill Trump? Now he wants to impede Muslims from entering the U.S. Someone really needs to kill Trump, ASAP. Somebody kill Trump. I genuinely mean it. And I'd rather murder Trump and rot in jail than let my kid grow up in a world with Trump as president." Fresh off of backtracking her statements disregarding the First Amendment, it appears Attorney General Loretta Lynch would find all of this call to violent action, at the very least, predicating. Of course, she won't bat an eye because Trump is on the wrong team. The lamestream media began to weigh in with their bought and paid for tactics.
You have leaders from your own party in the key states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. You have galvanized political rivals all saying this is un-American and extreme and that it makes you a fascist. How do you respond?
Well, I totally disagree. You take a look, Chris, at what's going on, and it is disgraceful. First of all, people quickly forget World Trade Center 1, World Trade Center number 2.
Not to be outdone, the flustered Republican field was all aglow with slap-in-the-face collective mentality. Politico writes, Jeb Bush fired back on Twitter saying Donald Trump is unhinged. His policy proposals are not serious. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said, "This is the kind of thing that people say when they have no experience and don't know what they're talking about." The billionaire GOP frontrunner, Trump, argued that what I'm doing is no different than FDR, likening his proposal to policies implemented by Roosevelt against people of Japanese, German, and Italian descent during World War II. And that's just it. You can't cover up an invasion of 72% male Syrian refugees into foreign lands, where women are being raped at epidemic levels and jihad attacks are brandishing a foothold in regularity in Western culture. Wake up and smell the reality. We are under attack, courtesy of our do-nothing, say-nothing commandeer-in-chief. How many suicide bombings on American soil are the leftist lamestream media bobbleheads prepared to spin before Americans have to bail them out of hell on earth, fomented by their own PC rhetoric and global masters' talking points? John Bound for Infowars.com.
First off, I am not here to defend Donald Trump just because he's familiar with the show and comes on the broadcast and, said favorable things. I defend Donald Trump because the entire establishment is lined up against him, Republican and Democrat, and they misconstrue and spin basically 99% of what he has to say. He does make some other statements about the internet and censoring it to stop ISIS that I think is really dangerous. But when he made statements about bringing refugees in a few months ago, I and others said it was horrible. He got educated on it and changed his view. Now, if he continues to push this internet censorship stuff, I'll have a big problem. But separate from that, who do we have on the other side? Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and then the Republican side with Lindsey Graham calling him a hate-filled bigot and that he's not qualified to run for president when he doesn't even show up in the single digits hardly. And he's completely compromised and openly backed Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, what is ISIS today with John McCain in Syria. So he is one of the main culprits of this. We wrote a big story about it yesterday. WorldNet Daily is reporting on it as well today. Kill Trump, enraged left calls for assassination. Critics demand death for GOP frontrunner after Muslim remarks. And all Trump said was, if we can't vet these people and Congress won't do their job and they're letting people come in masse, we've got to shut it down for a little while until we figure out what's going on. They've had many cases of health departments with the water supply with a deadly fungus or another poison in it, and they just shut the water off. If it's bacteria or something, they say boil your water, it can make you sick. But when it's deadly poison, they shut it off. Now, maybe 1/10 of 1/1,000,000% is the fungus. They've had this happen a bunch the last few years, killing a lot of people in Ohio and West Virginia and California. You see it in the news, hundreds sick, dozens dead. And they shut the water off. So if you have 25% in international polls, 21% in other polls of Syrians and refugees, basically invaders into Syria, usurpers, saying they support ISIS, they support jihad in the West, do you bring in unvetted these people when they've come from terror training camps like Jihad Malik last week with San Bernardino? No, the answer is you shut it off. And so we're in an info war. And globalists want to get rid of our borders. Well, Front Page Magazine has an article. We've copied the whole thing so it gets out to even more people up on Infowars.com. Carter banned Iranians from coming to the U.S. during hostage crisis. Trump is just like Hitler or Jimmy Carter. And that's their sarcastic headline. Fine. They're the ones that pointed this out. Good job, Front Page Magazine. But I'm going to have Watson kind of redo the article and actually show screenshots of the presidential declaration, the presidential order, and just have the headline that we put up on Twitter. Jimmy Carter agreed with Trump, blocked Muslims from entering U.S. and deported en masse. Because that's what's in the article and what's in the original stories from 1970, 1980, when you go look them up, is he had tens of thousands of Iranian students who were here on visas for education called in, and if they violated their visa in any way, which most of them did, they were held and deported. Now, let's be clear. What Trump is saying is what any other country in history would do. If you came here from Italy, or you came here from Japan, or you came here from Africa, 100 years ago, you came here from Mexico. If you came in through Ellis Island, they kept you there 3 months. To check the international most wanted list, to write letters back to the country where you came from to check on you, to see if you're a wanted person, and to check to see if you have diseases like the plague, tuberculosis, the list goes on and on. So this idea that, oh, you get here, we don't even check your ID or find out who you are, or you're chopping the head off of Lady Liberty. That's the cartoon they've had going around of Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump on the cover of New York Daily News cutting the head off of the Statue of Liberty. The same New York Daily News, of course, 2 days ago said that Christians, particularly one Christian who was vocal about his faith, basically deserved to die and were bigoted terrorists and is not listed amongst the dead, but listed with the shooters. There's the headline. New York Daily News cover shows Donald Trump beheading Statue of Liberty. So it is fitting the Statue of Liberty was to be a woman in a headdress in a burqa, a full burqa, not just a hijab or hijab or however you pronounce it, entering the Nile River there at Cairo. That is what it was built to be. It's why folks point out that it looks manly, because it was meant to be unisex, because originally the face was to be covered. So there you have it. And there's some other twists to that story I'm going to be covering a little bit later in the broadcast. But we have the big Trump insider on tomorrow. And, of course, that's Roger Stone, who was the head of his campaign in his exploratory committee 4 years ago, and who was one of the top people in his campaign until he resigned from the campaign so that he could do more on his own on Bill Maher and CNN and Fox and this show and others. And has been one of the most effective people. I see him in Discovery Channel documentaries about Trump. I turn on the television every once in a while, and it seems I see Stone out there. He'll be joining us for a full hour and a half tomorrow to really delve into Donald Trump, because he's known Donald Trump for decades. Trump's been talking about running for president since Bush Sr. in 1988. And, of course, Stone was one of the top advisors to Ronald Reagan. And Stone worked in pretty much clandestine operations with elections, pro-America elections in the third world. He's a big insider. And when he starts coming out and saying the Bushes deal drugs and the government murdered Kennedy, you have to understand that's Trump's advisor. That's pretty much one of his main advisors. And they're just waiting for the media to take the bait and attack him, because Trump really wants to be thrown in that briar patch. Now, a lot of his other campaign staff and people that are more orthodox don't, but see, they're not running the show. If they were running the show, Donald Trump wouldn't be in the lead right now. They're talking about banning Donald Trump from England. You're like, oh, that won't happen. Michael Savage is, for simply saying that many elements of radical Islam are not compatible with the West. The mayor of London, who is basically a liberal minion of radical Islam, very bizarre character, restricts everybody else's free speech, calls for bans on all sorts of basic freedom, but then says Muslims are above the law, protected group. It's all just political jockeying, political manipulation. He's come out and said that Trump is a liar. There are no no-go zones in London. We were there. There are. We were in Paris. There are. We were in. Our reporters on video were in Brussels, Belgium, and Biggs has been blown up in 2 armored vehicles, shot and hit with shrapnel several times. That's on record in magazines that were following him embedded when this happened. Rolling Stone, Esquire, you name it. And he said he was more scared in Brussels, Belgium, and felt more of a threat than his average day in Afghanistan or Iraq. And just everywhere they went, they would just scream at him and say, "Get out of here, you're not wanted." And men in cars would follow him, threatening him and screaming at him. And don't come in our gas station. Don't come in our restaurant. Don't come in our Five and Dime. Don't come in our facility. Don't come in our convenience store. Basically, they had to drive miles and miles away just to get food or just to go in and buy some water. And it's on record, the French police and the Belgian police don't go in those areas. And it's admitted in London, so they just sit there and lie about it. But you can't lie about it forever. Carter banned Iranians from coming to the U.S. during hostage crisis. It's up on Infowars.com. Trump is a monster, a madman, a vile racist. He's just like Hitler or Jimmy Carter, writes Daniel Greenfeld. During the Iranian hostage crisis, Carter issued a number of orders to put pressure on Iran. Among those, Iranians were banned from entering the United States unless they opposed the Shiite Islamist regime or had a medical emergency. Yeah, you've got to openly be against it or you can't come in. Well, that's what we're saying now is Japan will not let Wahhabists in for over 25 years. In fact, Japan has no Islamic terror problem ever, and the lowest crime rate after Switzerland in the world, probably even lower than Switzerland. And Japan admits and says, you can read the article at Infowars.com, quotes from the Japanese government. It says that Islam has not been found to be compatible with our orderly society and just doesn't comport with Japan. And by the way, Japan's pretty open and liberal about your freedoms, but they will not let Muslims pray in public in Japan. You will be deported if you're caught doing it. Now, they haven't had any Islamic terror. They're super liberal, have a peace pact of non-aggression treaty. And Japan will not let Muslims into their country. Pretty much, period. Now, I'm not saying we should do that. I think that's too extreme of a response. But Islam is in a very radical cycle right now and is being bullied by radicals into extreme radical behavior. And they're bringing these people in here to create a cultural crisis and to take our freedoms. And Donald Trump is right to say until the problem's fixed, until they're being vetted, you cannot bring anybody in. Shut the borders down entirely. Crazed Muslim and Hillary supporter threatens to circumcise Donald Trump. I will cut your bleep, screams man while waving knives in front of camera. There's other videos of him waving guns. This is psychotic, but literally thousands of tweets saying, I'm going to murder Trump. I'm not saying that. The media will run that and say I said that. People tweeting saying they're going to kill Trump, the different ways they're going to kill Trump. Thank God ISIS is here. Hope he kills Trump. And I would click through, and they were liberal Twitter accounts. Some of them prominent people. They think ISIS is sexy. Remember, this is being pushed by the left. These are very sick people. Let's go ahead and go to the first 30 seconds. The rest has got so much profanity, we can't play it. But this is the average Hillary supporter, in my view.
Hello, each and every one of you. Donald Trump said that today on the news, in front of all millions of people, Donald Trump said that they're going to ban Muslims coming to America. Donald Trump, let me tell you one thing. Donald Trump, you need somebody who is going to put you right on your spot. And that person is me. Donald Trump, you don't have no respect. You don't have no manner. You don't have no discipline. You know, because it's because of you are not circumcised. I blame your mother and your father. They are the people who put you in this trouble. Donald Trump,
That's enough.
I am a Muslim.
Yeah, keep going. There's 10 seconds. We got to cut it.
I'm working in the U.S. Army. Do you know thousands of Muslims are working as police officers in America? Donald Trump.
Basically, if you need that translated, and we've got a transcript up there, he says, you know, do you want us coming for you? Shut up, or we're gonna attack your genitals with knives. And as long as you scream Allah Akbar, I guess it's okay. You can read the transcript at Infowars.com. And now Hillary Clinton has come out saying Trump's playing right in the hands of ISIS. No, who played in the hands of ISIS was Hillary Clinton at the State Department 4.5 years ago that gave them the Stinger missiles, the heavy weapons, the TOW missiles, and continues to do so, hoping the public stays ignorant about that, which is not happening. But here is Hillary claiming that Trump's playing into their hands, blowing up their oil trucks that they're selling and making money with Turkey.
Instead of showing leadership, some candidates in this race are resorting to ugly, hateful rhetoric. Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, has made a name for himself in the last months by trafficking in prejudice and paranoia. His latest insult is his call to stop all Muslims from entering the United States. This is both a shameless and a dangerous idea. At a time when America should be doing everything we can to lead the fight to defeat ISIS and other radical jihadists, Donald Trump is playing right into their hands.
See how she talks like a robot to people? You will do as I say. Your planet is under my control. How dare Donald Trump want to close the borders? I am the leader of ISIS, Hillary Clinton. Our destabilization force is being defeated by those pesky Russians. Excuse me, just a moment. I was having a malfunction. My truth chip was activated. Excuse me. Donald Trump is bad. He's with ISIS. I'm good. You can trust me. How'd they get those missiles? Gee, better take your rights away and your guns.
Don't run. We are your friends.
Yeah, they say that Hillary normally goes around and talks in whatever accent. If she's in New York, she'll be like, "It's good to be here with you today. My name is Don Corleone." Or if she's out in California to a Latino crowd, she will literally go, "Hello, good to be here with you." And then if she's in Kentucky, she's cut back because of press coverage of this, but when she was in Kentucky, it was the best. "Got to be here today. I appreciate you." And then she started talking like a donkey or something. Started going, I mean, literally. Can we find her in Kentucky? "I ain't been nowhere done." I mean, can you imagine if you went and spoke to a bunch of coal miners in Kentucky? And, I mean, sure, they have a thick accent, kind of like, "Yeah, how you doing there?" And then you went, "Hi, I'm Alex Jones. I talk with a Texas accent, but instead I'm going to go, "Good to be here with you." I mean, who would buy into that? Or if I showed up to, say, a Hispanic group in Mexico and went, "Hello, good to see you." I mean, it is so insulting. And then now she just talks in robot voice. "I am Hillary Clinton. Your planet is ours. Hand over your women. I love them."
Jamie, I'm delighted to be here. I love sitting here and rocking. So thanks for giving me the chance to do that.
Exactly. Well,
my friends, we have a march to finish. I will be reintroducing the Count Every Vote Act to ensure that every voter is given the opportunity to vote, that every vote is counted, and each voter is given the chance to verify his or her vote before it is cast and made permanent. We have to stay awake. We have a march to finish. On this Lord's Day, let us say with one voice the words of James Cleveland's great freedom hymn. "I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me."
And there's even worse clips. There's clips of Rick Perry talking to Hispanic audiences that are really crazy. But again, it just shows a mindset. Do you think Donald Trump, when he shows up to speak to different audiences, or if he goes to Russia or to Germany or to Japan, does he show up in Japan and start going, "Oh, very good to see you. Oh, I am Donald Trump. Oh, yeah." Or does he show up in Russia and say, "It is very nice to meet you, Vladimir Putin"? I mean, this shows this weird manipulation and how these people see themselves as actors but don't even really know how the world really works. Foreigners particularly, just like a prophet isn't known in his own country, like the fact that people sound different and look different and act different. The truth is, folks like that. It's exotic if it's not taking something from them. So people actually don't want you to be coming up to them acting like you're them, because you certainly don't know how to act like them, and you've dumbed it down to some idiotic stereotype. Now, speaking of Vladimir Putin and Russia, here is some big news. And one of the reasons Dr. Group, one of our health advisors, is here in studio with us today on this live Wednesday, the 9th day of December 2015 transmission. Putin wants Russia to become world's biggest exporter of non-GMO food. There is already such a drive in Europe and the United States, because I read the trade publications, that they can't supply enough of it. And so they, in the last 5 years, have banned GMO being brought in. So that has glyphosate in it, you name it. Has all these secret stacked traits in it that kill farm animals and deform them and maim their young. I mean, that's on record. That this is a really good move for Russia. But, of course, the U.S. will try to ban them shipping the organics in. They want to make sure we eat the right thing. Separately, Monsanto is countersuing different governments and groups that are bringing up the fact that it's been linked in so many studies to cancer of the liver, of the pancreas, of the kidneys, of especially the bladder. I mean, who didn't know weed killer is good for you? I mean, their PR people said so, but they won't drink it themselves. By the way, don't drink it. Indian farmers use it to commit suicide. You want to go bye-bye, drink a glass of it, you're going to be bare minimum seeing little green men and vomiting and reducing your life expectancy by decades, and probably going to be going bye-bye. So, I mean, if you want to go 6 feet under, I mean, if that's healthy, then You want to crawl into the grave and start pushing some little daisies up and just be flyover country and folks drive by? You want to kind of skip the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of your life? By all means, listen to them and drink up, but it'll kill you deader than a hammer. So will cyanide. Now, I know that's a conspiracy theory, and a lot of folks think if I say women one day, you know, used to give babies milk through their mammary glands, that mammals are known for having hair and milk. It's true, but they're going to start saying that's not real. And I'm not joking. They're going to start saying vaginal birth never happened. It's a conspiracy theory. Already 50-something% is cesarean. They're trying to restrict it and act like you're weird if you want to have a vaginal birth. This is all part of putting us into this unnatural world. So for the next 45 minutes or so, Dr. Group joins us in studio. Then Lord Monckton from Paris on the key World Government Conference we're following. Tucker Carlson joins us. And then Anthony Gucciardi will host the fourth hour. I want to invite you back if you're still hanging out here in Austin, Tejas, for today's our Christmas party from an undisclosed location. So all that's coming up. But before we get into the stack of news and cover the Putin news and the other news, you have breaking news that you're going to cover first, that you discovered what's going in children's mouths as so-called additives. And no one else has ever reported this that we know of. This is just one more crazy town thing that's going on. The good news is, as this stuff gets exposed, companies are pulling it out of their products. So the good news is sunlight is the disinfectant for these little globalist Frankenberries, these little Frankensteins they've got running amok. But first off, you developed about 1.5 years ago Deep Cleanse for us. Took 6 months to bring it to market. This is a plug, folks. Free shipping until December 18th. Get great products and fund the tip of the spear in the info war. You can't beat that. Deep Cleanse is our best-selling product if we could keep it in stock. I know you couldn't get the organic Shilajit for 4 or 5 months. We were out of it. Then we keep selling out of it so fast. For the first time, we're discounting it, even though it's selling out. I just want to go further this holiday Christmas season. 17% off. It's our big special. That's going to have to end in the next few days because we'll just sell out too quick if we don't. We won't get more of this in until probably February or so. So I don't want to sell out of it. Need to keep it in stock. You know, that's not good for products to always be sold out. But it's so popular without me ever really plugging it or promoting it like X2 or Super Male Vitality that I think are just as amazing. But with the big groups out there, with the foodies, with the nutraceutical experts, with the hippies, this is a original proprietary product you made just for us, Deep Cleanse. Why is this so incredibly popular? Not just with my audience, but we have the metrics. All these people that aren't our audience, with this one product, well, Oxy Powder too, but that's not proprietary. You have that as well. You invented it. Are coming into InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, and just buying us out of this. And now that you are able, through the big herbology lab that's so famous and well-known in Utah, to up their production, they had to expand their factory because they make this product. Group designed it. This will probably be our best-selling product if we continue to keep it in stock. Why is it such a secret success without promotion, Dr. Group?
It's a product that I'm real proud of, and it took a long time to develop. And it's actually a souped-up fluoride shield. You know, we used to have the product for fluoride, and when we looked at the root cause of disease, what's happening with everybody's self-healing mechanism being suppressed, we're coming into the holiday season now where people are going to be consuming 2 or 3 times the amount of sugar and toxins and everything else for the next few months. They're going to be gaining weight. They're going to be deficient in vitamin D. What we did, as a matter of fact, the Fluoride Poison on Tap documentary that you guys put on your website a couple months ago actually has the fluoride shield in the documentary. So for anyone out there, I know that you guys have been getting a lot of questions on that. The Deep Cleanse is a replacement for the fluoride shield, but it goes above.
It's just more concentrated and has more Shilajit. Explain what it has.
Right, because we focus on intestinal cleansing, liver and gallbladder cleansing, harmful organism cleansing, and then chemical and toxic metal cleansing. And that's what the Deep Cleanse is designed to do. That's designed to bond and help the body naturally eliminate all the chemicals and toxins that you're going to get, whether it's from fragrances, cosmetics, plastics, the water supply that people are taking in with all the chemicals and compounds.
And it tastes like nothing you've ever tasted with all these different essential oils and different compounds and zeolites and organic Shilajit. It tastes good, but you think you've tasted everything, and then you taste this. It tastes like nothing I've ever tasted.
No, it's an amazing product, and you know, we actually get some shipped to us, and I take the product. I take everything that we develop, but we've had so many good responses from people taking the deep cleanse, and it really is what it says on the label. It's designed to deeply cleanse all of the chemicals and toxic metals, assist your body in doing that. And we use rare ingredients like you mentioned, the shilajit, which is hand harvested up in the Himalayan mountains. And that's a combination of minerals and fulvic blends from decomposed plant material for 7,000
How old is the shilajit? I know we don't know exactly, but I mean, they say that most oil isn't really fossil-based. It's I guess that's abiotic. That's being proven. But this truly is a fossil oil, correct?
It's more of a resin, and it's the decomposition of, depending on where the mountain is, they might have 50, 70, even 100 different medicinal plants growing in that area of the mountain. And as they decompose, these plants are perennial, means their root structure stays there and they regrow every year, but they decompose. Part of the plants, the leaves fall off.
And the oil concentrates.
And it keeps working its way down, down, down into the mountain. And after, let's say, 7 or 10 years, maybe even more than that.
So it's more like amber. It's more like amber, then.
It's like a thick amber resin, except it's a dark brown, black color. So deep cleanse is something, look, we just can't get away from all the chemicals and toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis.
And wasn't it the Russians back in the Olympics? People kept testing them, and they weren't on drugs, but they were on shilajit.
That's what it was, yes. That was a performance-enhancing. It's not a performance-enhancing drug because it comes from the earth. It's all natural. But what that does is it gives you all the necessary vitamins and minerals.
Would you say, on average, it's as in performance-enhancing as, say, a Supermel Vitality, or is it totally different?
It's different in the fact that it's designed to help your body chelate or bond to. So
why were the Russians taking it and still taking it?
Well, because if your body's clean, which is what we talk about all the time, then your hormones work. If you're not putting the endocrine disrupting chemicals in that are actually suppressing your hormones and increasing your estrogen and causing hormonal imbalance, and your body's clean and free of all these chemicals and toxins, these endocrine disrupting chemicals, and not only that, I mean, mercury fillings, the list goes on and on and on, gluten, then your body's ability to produce and regulate the hormones properly is balanced. It's all about balance, and the shilajit did that. But not only that, the shilajit actually stimulates the pituitary gland. It helps release the toxic halogens from the thyroid, and it actually brings the body's endocrine, which is your hormone-producing system, back into balance.
Well, I haven't gone through a detox taking this like I did X2. Do you think that's, I mean, I know it varies person to person group, but just your gut level, you know, so many patients, so much research dealing with these compounds. Is it that I already went through the detox with the X2 years ago, so this didn't make me feel bad? Or is it that this is just so entirely different that it didn't have that effect?
It depends on what stage of your detox you're going through. That's why we recommend first doing an intestinal cleanse, because you don't want to start taking a bunch of chemicals and toxic compounds into your bloodstream if you're constipated, because then it's just going to dump into your intestines, and it's going to sit there and reabsorb back into your bloodstream.
So first, Oxy powder, liver shield.
Get your liver
clean that out, drink a lot of water. Apple cider vinegar, then the next phase.
Then the next phase is the deep cleanse and cleansing everything out. Now, that's not to say you can't still do that.
Well, did I start right doing X2, though, before I started the deep cleanse?
You did.
So X2 first, then the deep cleanse, then the, X2, then the Oxy powder. I mean, what's the order?
Well, the perfect order would be always focus on your intestines first, and that would be Oxy powder cleaning your intestines, because if your intestines
liver shield, Oxy powder, then X2, then deep cleanse.
Oxy powder and liver shield for your liver. The two main disease-causing organs that get contaminated are the intestinal tract and the liver. And so if those two are clean, then everything else works really good, and the liver's actually able to process.
Okay, so it's liver shield, Oxy powder. Then it's X2.
Oxy powder, liver shield. But X2 could be taken at any time. See, that doesn't necessarily have to be taken after any particular cleansing programs, because the iodine itself will actually bond to some of the toxic halogens, and that should come out through your urine. So that
Oxy powder, liver shield.
Anybody at any time, because every cell in the body has iodine receptors on it.
So it's because, I mean, I think I was saying it this way, but tell me if I'm wrong. So it's Oxy powder, liver shield, then Deep Cleanse, and X2 can be anytime.
X2 can be anytime, but usually after the liver shield, we want to go with the harmful organism cleansing, the living defense, and then just constantly clean your body on a regular basis and then focus on cleaning your environment.
How often would you take living defense each year?
I would go through maybe one. Of course, everybody's different. That's going to depend on if they're eating a lot of sushi or not. But the living defense, I would go through at least one harmful organism cleanse every single year.
Okay, and we've got the Oxy powder discounted with the living defense and also discounted with another product, the Deep Cleanse as well. There's a huge discount on that right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. That's the Cleanse Pack. And it helps fund this operation and what we're doing as well, so it is a big win-win. I want to thank you all for your support. You can read the incredible reviews. That is a new combo special that just launched today, so there are 0 reviews. The average review of over 5,000 now on the site, third-party site, Power Reviews, very reputable, look it up for yourself, is 4.8. But this is a new special today, and it's only running while supplies last, probably until, as I said, this weekend or so, because we are selling out of the Deep Cleanse very, very quickly. You can check out those 5.0 reviews and more at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Now, I'm done plugging for this hour and probably much of the next, but that is how we fund our operation. Please support our local sponsors, our local affiliates. Just as important as buying our products is supporting those local stations and spreading the word. Obviously, you're doing that. The broadcast is exploding. We want to thank you. Now, I want to get into Putin. I want to get into the non-GMO as their big export. I want to get into Monsanto when we come back. And then in the next hour, ahead of Monckton joining us, Dr. Group, you've got a stack of health news, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Tell us what's coming up.
Well, I brought a bunch of information. I have some breaking news. One of the most breaking things that I found is one of my kids got a cavity recently, and I had to search all over town to try to find somebody that had some natural fillings. And it was shocking what I found. I even did the research online and couldn't pull up anything, but what I found was there was, aside from the mercury fillings, there are 3 or 4 different type of filling materials, and I brought some information here. If you want to go over that right now, we can.
Let's do at the start of the next segment. Tell me all the stuff that's coming up, because you got a bunch of stuff.
Okay, we have that. I put a bunch of stuff together, holiday tips, things. I think I might cover that with Anthony, though, later on. But we have the drug that helped Jimmy Carter get cancer-free. We have Superbug Apocalypse, how the Trans-Pacific Partnership harms public health. We have environmentalists put Monsanto on trial for crimes against nature. We also have some shocking information that we found out that the FDA actually wanted to stop mercury fillings, and the Obama administration killed it in secret. Wow. And we have some information talking about teeth, just by the way, some stem cell stuff that's happening right now where they can actually regrow your teeth in your body. So that's some of the things, of course, of the Putin GMO situation that's going on, and anybody that wants to find out about some healthy holiday tips that they can do to kind of reduce.
That's right, and I think you are going to be on some with Anthony, at least 30 minutes in the 4th hour we've added today as well. But Dr. Group, when we come back, no, you can choose. This is also important. Okay. What do you want to hit first when we come back?
Let's hit the chemicals that are being put in the kids' mouths, because I think that's pretty important. And children right now are...
Yeah, because you think we get away from the mercury, everything's going to be okay, and then we just move on to something just as bad or worse.
Exactly.
But wait a minute. I've got the federal government. I've got videos on the news where they say mercury's good for children's brains. I'm serious. We'll be back. Stay with us. Are you prepared? Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting worldwide. We're not just here complaining about the globalists and their system. We are taking our country and our world back. We are creating our own economies. We are promoting what is known to be healthy and safe and alternatives to globalism. Look at the Second Amendment culture's taken over. They admit that in every metric out there, that they've gone from 30-something years ago, guns being unpopular, to guns now being almost 75%, 74, 73% positive in this country. Roe v. Wade was popular in 1974, 1973. Now it's unpopular. The numbers are flipping. And regardless of what you think about abortion itself, people now know it's about eugenics. It's about body parts. It's not about choice. Do we demonize some woman that's had an abortion and say she's the devil? No. And a lot of the controlled opposition does that to make it look reasonable. We just simply point out we need to value life more, and that people can be forgiven for what they've done. Lord knows I can. Lord knows I'm not perfect. I'm not some Pharisee, folks, up here on a high horse. Just because I'm trying to get back into health the last 4 or 5 years, and I've lost 70+ pounds, I was really fat, doesn't mean I'm Mr. Pretty Boy and have all the answers, and I'm up here, you know, looking down on you. We're all in this journey together. I'm trying to get folks on this journey. Dr. Group, you found out some incredible stuff. Just a little bit of plastic additive, bisphenol A, I know is a huge endocrine disruptor. You have the actual sheets from the dental offices, and I don't want to single them out. They're just getting, you know, what's accepted normal stuff now to replace mercury. But my goodness, just from what I've researched, couldn't this be as bad as mercury? Tell us about it.
I thought that I knew everything, and I thought I had researched everything. But it wasn't until my kid had a cavity and needed to be filled that my wife took him to one of the dentist's office, and she asked, is there an alternative to mercury? And they said, yes, there is. And she said, well, can I see what's in there? And so they gave her a data sheet. She called me up, and she's like, do you know that these fillings contain a bunch of toxic ingredients? There's 2-hydroxyethyl methyl acrylate, bisphenol A, 10-methacrylyl. I mean, you can't even pronounce these. Decyl, and I'm a scientist. Dihydrogen phosphate.
Let's zoom in on that. Yeah. Go ahead and lay it out so they can zoom in. That's fine right there. Put it right there for TV viewers, yeah.
Right there. There was 3 different types that we found. I went to 3 different dentist offices in the Houston area and got these. That
is the hazardous material data sheet they gave you.
Yes, it is. And this one is called Clearfill, and there's 2 other ones by 3M that are made by 3M. Actually, there's 3 other ones made by 3M, and they all contain bisphenol A, potassium persulfate, glycerol, dimethyl acrylate. I mean, every single one of these chemicals, and this is what they're using to put in kids' mouths.
Well, what blows me away is if there was a little bit of it, you could see, well, they needed to bond it. But these have high percentages of this.
And, you know, this is just shocking to me. I've never seen anything like this. I'm going to post these on our website and give these to the InfoWars team, too, to post as well, because this is shocking. I thought mercury was bad.
Well, your dad was a famous chemist who helped develop bisphenol A, but no one's denying now what this does. I mean, this turns male frogs into females, females into super females. I mean, this is not good.
So they're putting endocrine disrupting chemicals and sterility chemicals in children's mouths when they get cavities. And, you know, the cavity rate is...
That's the headline. Chemicals linked to sterility in fillings.
That's right.
Amazing. Well, listen, when you're off the air with us in 30 minutes, please go in and work with Don Salazar or Kit Daniels or Kurt Nimmo or Paul Watson or Steve Watson or Mikhail Phelan or any of the writers. Because this is big. We need to do an actual story on this with the scans. And I
agree. And I just got these 2 days ago. This is for the first time we're announcing this on the air.
And this is all just because you investigated it and actually asked for the materials data sheet. And we're not demonizing anybody. This is just what's going on. We're letting you know. You have a right to know. We'll be back with the second hour. Stay with us. All right, we're going to get into geopolitical news, the latest on Trump saying, hey, if we can't vet people, they're not checking their passports, their fake IDs. We got to shut it down for a limited time until Congress acts and we get a handle on this. Well, yeah, it's like get out of the house while it's on fire. And I'm somebody who didn't want the war with Islam, tried to stop the wars, but now they got the clash of civilizations going on, and we're getting overrun with a lot of radicals. I've got to then say, okay, I mean, you see, people say, well, why did you thumbprint to get your driver's license? You got arrested in 1997 demonstrating against it. I tried to get it out. Now I can't travel or live without it, so I go ahead and submit to it. It doesn't mean I'm for it. It's like I fought the police state. Now it's here. That doesn't mean I support shooting cops in the head randomly because that's being pushed by the White House. They create the crisis, offer the solution, even greater crisis. But in the short segment, I want to come back into all this super important health news with you. Dr. Group, you know, you're an Army veteran yourself, special operations, a patriot, kind of liberal on some issues, conservative on others, really a libertarian, correct me if I'm wrong. But a trailblazer in nutraceuticals and other research and product development. So you're an American, you know, free market guy. What is your view of Donald Trump? What do you think about the things he's doing and the whole system lined up against him?
Well, I'm a believer of addressing the root cause of the problem. And government and politics has not ever addressed the root cause of the million problems that we currently have. The FDA doesn't address the problem, the root cause of all the chemicals and disease. The pharmaceutical companies don't address the root cause of the problems in healthcare. If you look at all political scenarios out there, all they do is put a Band-Aid on the problem, and it costs the taxpayers and all of us a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of stress and a lot of headache. So what I think is Donald Trump is actually coming out and addressing the root cause of the problem. And that's the only way that you fix things in this world, is if you actually take the time and say, okay, this is the scenario that we have. I mean, we all know about all the false flag attacks and the government creation of ISIS and all of those agendas that we currently have for the New World Order and the global control and with the bankers running everything and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all that. The majority of the population doesn't know about that. That is the root cause of the problem. And if we have open borders and we have people coming in, it's only going to affect all of the Americans that are actually trying to live by the Constitution, live by Christianity, and they're actually trying to do a good job and support their country instead of having, you know, these other people that are coming in and creating chaos and threatening our amendment rights to take our guns away. I mean, you got to look at the agenda. It's exactly what you talk about all the time.
That's it. There's an agenda. They're using this to take our freedom. It's very simple.
Take our guns from us, keep us sick, keep us dumbed down, keep us in a state of fear so they can control us. I mean, that's just, it's all, you know, socialistic, itemized ways.
Isn't Bernie Sanders scary?
Yes.
Saying just put gun owners on lists with no proof, take their guns, and saying Donald Trump should shut up. You know, this isn't how we do it in America. This won't fly. Jimmy Carter, when we were basically at war with Iran, kicked Iranians out by the tens of thousands and wouldn't let them come here.
Well, they didn't even let Trump finish what he was saying anyway. I mean, all the major news agencies cut him off right after he said not to let the Muslims or Islamic people into the country. And, you know, they just started that whole ball rolling because Trump is a threat. I mean, he's a threat to all the other politicians. They know that he might be the one that can come in there and actually start stirring things up.
What do you think of him coming on the show?
I think that was awesome. I mean, that was incredible. I watched it, and it was, you know, of course, like you said at the end, he was going to get a lot of backlash, and he did. But, I mean, someone needs to stand up. I mean, we stand up every single day.
Well, he should be able to go on whatever show he wants.
You know what? Being in government and politics it's very hard to change the world. What we do
is change the world, and he knows that. He's breaking the mold.
That's right.
Trump knows about the New World Order, folks.
He does.
You've got Putin coming out saying, I may use nukes on ISIS. That's to get the harder, deeper targets. Super radical statement, part of Operation Total Destruction. I'm not joking, that's the name of the operation. With cruise missiles. That's the headline. Putin threatens to use nuclear weapons against ISIS, but hopes they'll never be needed. Leader says new cruise missile can be equipped with nuclear warheads and conventional warheads. That's just saber rattling against the West. But he also comes out and says we want to make our big export non-GMO food. We know there's a huge market, which the metrics actually show. And I wanted to get to that next, Dr. Group, than all the other articles. Look at Trump. Look at Putin. It's not that they're perfect, but they know breaking with the system is what's healthy and it's what's popular. All over the world, they can't meet the demand for non-GMO. It's super profitable. Why would our government then be pushing it on the whole world? I mean, Africans won't take it. They won't take it as food aid. They know what's going on. There's Putin wants Russia to become the world's biggest exporter of non-GMO food. We should be. But instead, they've got all these regulations and harassment to try to shut it down. What do you think's happening, Dr. Grube?
Well, I think that's great for Russia. You know, I know Putin's a listener, and I know that he is probably on the leading edge of getting rid of all the chemicals and actually listening to the people. And with the healthcare programs they're putting in place, we're going backwards. The U.S. is falling lower and lower and lower in healthcare, in debt, and the amount of toxic chemicals being sprayed on us and in the water system and everything. And there's nothing on the horizon from our government to fix any of that. So for all these other government leaders to step up in these other countries and to start listening to what the people want and start making adjustments and pledges to actually clean up the food supply, clean up the water, they know that this is the way to create a healthy environment in which we live, because the earth is also sick, people are sick. Unfortunately, here in the United States.
You're talking about the soils right there. I mean,
the soils.
There are natural systems that have better yields, incredibly alive, makes the soil stick to the earth, doesn't wash away.
That's right.
We're seeing the desertification all over the U.S., like Africa now. Like, we're becoming the Sahara in many areas of the country, like the Midwest.
Yes, we are becoming a poisoned country. And there's nothing, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. More chemicals are being approved. There's no oversight by the USDA, the EPA.
But Monsanto said glyphosate's good for you.
Well, of course.
I mean, if dying is good.
Well, you know, you have to look at the population control factor, too. I mean, all of this stuff is designed. You can take any one of these chemicals. We've done it. We've broken down every single one. There's 80,000 chemicals that aren't.
Mainline science admits that glyphosate is an estrogen mimicker and grows many forms of cancer. Period.
That's right. At parts per billion dosages. You remember a long time ago, we used to go in our grandmother's cupboard and we'd pull out the flour and sometimes you'd find all those little bugs in there?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, but no one's seen any bugs in their flour in the last 10 or 15 years.
That's right. I remember my mom would have flour, and in a week, if we didn't eat it, there'd be bugs in there because they had eggs in there, and they'd hatch. But they can't do it now because they're dead, dead, dead. And people go, oh, good, no bugs. No, that's the bottom of the food chain. That means that you're dying, too.
That means that the flour is contaminated with pesticides. It's sprayed with pesticides in the field.
Well, they admittedly spray it with fluoride.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why you don't see bugs flying around or in your cupboard anymore, because everything's toxic for bugs. I mean, if they.
Well, what about all the studies out showing that insect levels are plunging?
Well, not only are insect levels plunging, but so is the herbs plunging. You know, we're kind of, you and I are kind of, you have the oil and gas industry, but you also have the commodity industry, and that's herbs. And we do the same thing. I mean,
that's why we're sold out of stuff a lot of the time, because we can't get real organic that'll pass California certification.
Do you know a bottle of oxy powder right now is more expensive than a barrel of oil?
Yes.
And what does that barrel of oil do for the environment? What does that bottle of oxy powder do for your health? You know, so we're over here, we're doing, instead of drilling, we're farming, right? So if you look at our industry and you look at the oil and gas, it's basically the same thing. They're taking and destroying the earth, but we're growing stuff on the earth. We have to move commodities around too, and we have different price structure on commodities. They have different price structures on commodities. The end result is you either use the toxic oil and gas for your car to pollute the environment, or you use the natural product.
I just thought of something. We ought to send you over. I'm serious with a crew for a week and a half, paid deal as reporters to go make deals with Russian farmers. I'm serious to supply us with a bunch of our herbs that we can't even get from America now.
That's right. Yeah. There's only 2 biodynamic certified herb farms in the United States. Ours is one of them, and there's another 1-acre farm up in Oregon that's biodynamic certified. And that, for people who don't know, biodynamic is the old sustainable agricultural, permacultural way of everything comes from.
And a lot of listeners will tune into us and go, wait, you say global warming's a fraud, Al Gore's a fraud, but you're talking all this super hippy-dippy stuff. No, keeping your soil alive, not having GMO, not having heavy metals in your food is common sense, real sustainability. They hijack all those terms and they push it as world government when they're the ones building new nuclear reactors everywhere on fault lines, and the environmental left says nukes are the answer. See, everything they say they are, it's the opposite. I mean, you take the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ADL. Let's take Planned Parenthood. Admittedly above the Klan. But black people fall down and worship it even though it's sworn to kill them because TV said so. And so do white people. I mean, this is the mental illness. They're the opposite of what they claim, folks, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the control over the power grids and everything. By the way, I talked to one of the Tesla engineers with that new home battery that they're coming out with that powers your whole home. And with just a small solar panel.
We're going to get them on, yeah. It's
that's supposed to be released this summer. And
by the way, they've had the government jacking with them.
I asked them,
real environmental stuff they're trying to block, real innovation.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, you really think that they're going to allow that to be released? And they said, it's already in some homes in California and Utah, but I'll be real surprised. It's going to sell for $3,000, $3,500, and one of these units will power a 4,000 square foot home.
Wow.
So, we're starting to see the push for free energy devices. People are, when you walk on the ground, you should almost feel the ground move because the earth is living. It should be living. But when we spray all kinds of chemtrails and we have water that's contaminated with fluoride and all the chemicals and toxins, we've killed off all the soil. So we're killing from the ground up fracking, oil drilling, minerals, all that stuff.
And let's go further. I told the story last week, is they always want to ban this, ban that at the UN. German immigrants and others in Central Texas brought in goats 160 years ago or so, or 70 years ago now. And there were 6-foot grass, oak trees everywhere. They thought they'd found, they called it Valhalla. I mean, springs coming out of the rocks everywhere, every couple hundred feet. It was crazy. The goats, within just 50, 60 years, they eat the roots as well. They pull them up, so nothing grows back. They're very destructive. Cows don't do that. Deer don't do that. And it turned Central Texas, if you drive out like the surface of the moon, just rocks everywhere, boulders, scrub brush, and then a few oak trees, but most of them have died because the soil's all gone. And it's admittedly the goats. Well, if you think a goat's destructive, folks, the chemicals they use, like Roundup, all over the country, is admittedly annihilating and killing the soil.
Right, and people, I've talked to a lot of farmers all over, and it's getting harder and harder. You talked about the insects being destroyed. The herbs are being destroyed. I mean, there's, I think, 200 species going extinct every few months of medicinal herbs. So people are having to grow in greenhouses now because the acidity of the soil from the air.
Well, I've had high-level state people on from California who've been out in these documentaries, and they go, we don't know what's doing it, but aluminum is 30, 40, 50 times what it was a decade ago. Something's falling, and the plants won't grow in it, but don't worry. Monsanto's coming out with a whole line
of seeds that are resistant to aluminum and can grow in acidic soil. Yeah.
Man, these people are beyond villains in Marvel comic books.
It's crazy. It's the, you know, it's.
Where's Lex Luthor when you need him? He'd be better for president than these guys.
You know, right now we're in that age of manipulating. They're trying to play God. They're transhumanism, like we had talked about before.
Well, here's the difference. If you put one of the supervillains from Marvel Comics in charge, they may not destroy everything because they just want to be in charge. Like, Luthor would just want to be in charge. These globalists, as you said, they're in charge, and they want to screw us over.
Yep, that's what's going on. As a matter of fact,
I mean, all he wanted from Zod was Australia. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, everything's going down, and I actually had an article where 1 in 4 young doctors are experiencing symptoms of depression right now. 1 in 4 doctors. But I also talk to doctors. I mean, I'm not trying
That's because subconsciously they don't feel good about what they're doing.
Yeah, you think that's what it is?
Well, I mean, any profession where you don't feel good about what you're doing is the most depressing thing. Take soldiers. If they felt like it's a good war, then it doesn't hurt them that bad. If they feel like it's a bad war, they come on and blow their heads off.
I don't know. Maybe it's because of all the fluoride and all the medications that they're taking, too, that's calcifying their pineal gland.
Well, I agree. I think it's a cocktail.
Because medical doctors, actually, even in medical school, are highly addicted to Adderall and different types of caffeine and stimulants because they have to stay up long hours, and that's been...
Oh, every soldier I talk to now, and this has always gone on, they ordered Elvis on speed so he could play for the Army, but everybody, I mean, they would order Biggs and them to take opiates and speed, and helicopters would land. Russian helicopters was who the Army used for delivery of the drugs, and they would be told, give these to your men. And they did it to compromise them, so later they could then tell them, okay, sign these forms, we'll give you more drugs.
Right, right. Yeah, it's really sad what's happening to the VAs out there, to the VA hospitals, and all the veterans out there that are addicted.
This was in Afghanistan. They were ordering them on drugs.
I know. I talked to them. They call my office wanting to detox. Of course, they won't let them.
They would order Biggs. Tell your men, take this. Here's giant bags of, every opiate you can imagine. He'd be like, what? Getting them ready to get on heroin. We'll be back. Most people can't actually relate to a song like this.
Oh, I know, especially the holiday season when everybody gets together with their family and you know all about this stuff and you have the whole other family out there and you're sitting there around Thanksgiving or Christmas and you have the whole family talking about what's going on CNN and you're just sitting there biting your lip thinking, I'm not even going to get
Exactly. This happens. I'll try. Most of my family's awake, but sometimes people come over and I won't be saying a word, and then they'll bring up the smart mouth comment. Like, I bet that black helicopter's going to get me. Or, I bet the space aliens, I bet the Chupacabra's hiding under the table, Alex. Rachel Maddow says that you say Obama sent a tornado and that you believe in spacemen under the Pentagon. And it's like, no, I never said that. By the way, they had a bunch of Trump's campaign run up to him. I later learned after and was like, look, he believes there was no moon landing. Look, Alex Jones, says... there's WASP under the Pentagon, because they had headlines saying that again last week. And Trump went, yeah, they say that about me, too. I bet that's not true. So it just didn't work. So that's the problem. He knows they're a pack of liars. He doesn't care. So they're all over every channel right now, group saying, get rid of him. Obama says he's not qualified. He's disqualified now. So Obama is now our Lord and Savior. He decides, this is my president?
That is your president.
Can I open it on air?
Yes, you can.
For TV viewers, you'll get to see this.
Talking about the holidays.
Well, thank you. I don't know what it is.
Even though it's like 80 degrees down here in Austin.
Let's open it up.
I thought that would be, you have everything, so I always try to find something that's unique.
I have healthy children. That's everything.
That's the most important thing.
There's a lot I don't know.
That's, hey, that's what we're doing, trying to help people and trying to bring good.
Wow, Crusader Force. Wonder what this is. Oh, my gosh. A knife. This is cool.
Well, that's a special knife. It's all hand forged, handmade.
I don't want to hurt myself. That doesn't work.
Editions. And
wow, that's a big old thing.
Especially since you had the news today of the guy that was going crazy wanting to circumcise Trump, that you might need some protection today just in case. And
this is a big old knife. What is this for? Like chopping through bones or something? Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's just it's a custom knife. They're very hard to get, actually. They're made by one company online. And
we always give me nice gifts. Thank you. You really are a class act.
You can never go wrong with a custom, state-of-the-art, hand-forged, just special type of stainless steel on there knife. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, you could use it for anything, but you can add it to your collection of armaments.
I do have a couple knives. Thank you. It is awesome. Looks like it's good for like skinning a buck or something.
Yeah.
Almost looks like a skinning knife, I think. Well, thank you. It's really classy. Thank you, Dr. Grip.
Thank you.
Speaking of Christmas presents, since you raised this, I hadn't thought of this point, and they're going to come back in the fourth hour with Anthony Gucciardi and all this other medical and health news you haven't gotten to yet. But the time we have left here, what do you think the best... If people can only get like 3 products from InfoWarsLife.com to give as gifts to their friends and family to hopefully get them on the road to nutraceuticals to just discover what their body was deficient in or what these compounds can do for them, I would guess X2, Super Male or Super Female Vitality, and something like the Deep Cleanse. Or out of the 16, 17 InfoWars Life products, what are 3 you'd recommend to put under the tree as a gift?
Well, no doubt everybody needs the X2 iodine. I mean, you're going to see changes. It doesn't matter if you're 6 years old or 86 years old. Every single person is going to need iodine. There's no doubt about it. I would say that should be a staple in everybody's natural medicine cabinet and something people should take every day or every other day. The second thing is going to be oxy powder, because especially during the holidays, the average person gains 5 pounds from October to January. Listen, I mean, even if you take, yes, you're going to be overeating. You're going to be taking in a lot of toxic material.
You're going to be drinking wild turkey.
You're going to be, drinking eggnog and all the other things. So listen, here's the easiest, simplest tip that I can tell somebody to do is just take a few oxy powder every single night through the holidays, because how you gain all the weight is when it stays inside your system for 3 days, and then that rotting food creates lactic acid, creates all kinds of...
And we've got the Cleanse Pack discounted right now massively. We have the Essential Pack. I don't know about this new special they launched. The experts back there, Anthony and Buckley. But the Essential Pack is what? Colloidal Silver, Super Male Vitality, and Survival Shield. 33% off. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139.
And don't forget about winter sun. It's the winter, and everybody needs vitamin D right now. So get your vitamin D and make sure you're taking that throughout the winter so you can get and keep your immune system
Absolutely.
strong.
Thank you, Dr. Grip. We'll be back in the fourth hour.
Thank you.
But every time Lord Monckton comes on, he does a great job, but he ends up telling us the facts, the science, the latest meteorology, astrophysics, what this scientist says, what that one says. Our audience knows that. What we want to know about is what he really does, and that's get the secret documents, get the secret treaties, expose what's happening, work with the folks that leak the hacked info to expose the criminal mastermind program that's taking place. That's why you hear the folks running the UN summit right now calling for a body to arrest those of us that don't agree with whatever they say, because it's changing all the time. And it's so unprecedented to see something like this. Now we're hearing that Donald Trump is disqualified. We've heard this from Lindsey Graham. Can we cue him up, actually? Lindsey Graham, the beauty queen there from the Carolinas. We've got Lindsey Graham, who is about as left as Obama is, and we've got all these other warmongering, type neocons and people, globalists, saying how evil Donald Trump is, knowing it's out of context. He said, until we've got a handle on who's coming in, what's going on, why the State Department's standing down, he gave a big speech on it, we need to stop everybody coming in. Well, it turns out Jimmy Carter did that. There's 2 articles up on Infowars.com. He deported Iranians who were not openly loyal to the United States by the thousands, and he banned any of them coming in unless they had a medical emergency or were against the Shiite regime. Well, now we have a Wahhabist Sunni invasion, and we have attacks all over the world taking place, and he says, look, there's a scandal. They have got to stop doing this. They have got to stop just letting people in and not even checking their IDs. And the answer to that was, oh my gosh, this is pure fascism. Donald Trump should be banned from flying to the UK. There's a petition out with close to 100,000 signatures right now. That story's up on Infowars.com. So this is the madness when you see Europe's borders being collapsed by the head of their migrant program, who's a top globalist, Peter Sutherland, who Monckton's an expert on, when you see most of the laws of European countries being made by the EU, when you see the carjackings, the muggings, the tunnel being taken over by the illegals. What is the master plan here? Because it ties into the global carbon taxes. It ties into what's happening with the treaty currently. And that's what we want to know from Lord Monckton is why are they imploding our borders? What's the master plan? And what is currently happening in the secretive UN event? Because we know they have PR functions saying polar bears can't swim and arrest Lord Monckton and arrest Mark Moreno and rioters attacking your showing of the film. But when they're not trying to declare civil emergency off the jihadis they brought in, they're trying to forge this new global government that you're exposing. Lord Monckton joins us reporting for Science and Public Policy from Paris. Welcome, sir.
Well, it's wonderful to be with you again, Alex. Here we are in Paris, and it's been a long, hard slog inside the conference where they still haven't really reached any agreement. They've managed to get the draft treaty down from 58 pages to 54 pages and then down to 48 pages, but it's still full of square brackets and the word option still occurs 40 or 50 times. They have no agreement on whether they want to stop the world from warming by 1.5 degrees compared with 1750, which would be half a degree compared with today, or 1 degree compared with today. And why it is that anyone should think that half a degree or 1 degree of warming compared with today would be a bad thing, I find it very hard to make out. In the past, warmer periods, such as the medieval warm period, the Roman warm period, the Minoan warm period, the Egyptian Old Kingdom warm period, and the 4,000 years of the Holocene climate optimum, which lasted from 10,000 to 6,000 years ago, all of these were called climate optima because optimum is better. Warm is better than cold, even for polar bears.
Wait a minute, are you saying Pluto wouldn't be better for us to live on than Earth?
Pluto really wouldn't be better for us to live on, but I tell you what, it would be very good to export everyone who is at this conference to Pluto and leave them there for a few years to experience what cold really is like. And then I think they'd come back.
Come back as corpsicles.
They'd come back wiser anyway.
Yeah, I guess being dead is better than being dumb. No, I mean, I'm being sarcastic there. We wish no harm upon these people. They wish harm upon us. Describe for us exactly what happened at this showing of this film that you and Mark Moreno are in. I saw just fits of people demanding you and he be arrested, wanted signs, frothing demands that the film not be shown by the liberals.
Well, they call themselves liberal, but of course they're really illiberal, and we shouldn't use the word liberal for the so-called liberals or Democrat for the so-called Democrats. These are totalitarians. These are the people of the same stamp as the fascists and the communists who shrieked across Europe in the last century. Here they are back out of the woodwork again, and very evident at the Climate Hustle launch. Now, Climate Hustle is a wonderful movie. I was one of the bit part walk-on players in the movie, and you'll see there in that photograph James Dellingpole of Breitbart.com standing next to Mark Morano, and of course we had our very own polar bear who very much enjoyed the film. Polar bears have become something of a poster child of both sides, The other side, of course, pretending that polar bears are threatened by global warming, and our side demonstrating that there are now 6 or 7 times as many polar bears as there were in the 1960s, and so there really isn't any need to worry about
Sure,
them.
but let's go back to the sun. As you know, 5 years ago, they voted to say the sun is not the main driver, even a driver of climate, because they want to control the Earth and claim that they control the thermostat. Is this not the ultimate control freakism?
Well, it reminds me very much of an old king of England who came to us from Denmark. He was King Canute, or Canute as they call him in Denmark, and he once had his throne taken to the shore, and he sat on the throne, had all his courtiers around him, and he stretched out his hand and told the incoming tide not to come in and the sea level to stop rising. And the sea level didn't stop rising. The tide came in and wet the royal feet. And he turned to his courtiers, and I must say, I wish this conference would listen to this, and he said, remember this, that even if the divinely anointed and appointed king cannot command these little waves not to come up and wet the royal feet, then remember that you too, the servants of the king, are limited in your powers. You cannot influence the weather any more than I can. Therefore, be humble and remember it is the Lord who made the oceans and the land. He alone commands the sea and the waves, and to him and not to me be all praise. Now there was a humble king who wanted to show that if he was humble and sensible, so should his courtiers be. And the worldwide governing class now could do a lot to learn from him and from you, Alex, as your studio floats rather dangerously close to the sun from the picture I'm seeing here. But the sun, of course...
But the UN said it doesn't heat the Earth, so I should be fine if that was a real sun behind me. I wouldn't burn up. I mean, everything's fine. I mean, Al Gore controls the Earth, not the sun.
It is crazy. We know from the longest regional temperature record in the world, which goes back to 1649, which is the Central England temperature record, that between 1645 and 1715, there was a little ice age. There were virtually no sunspots on the surface of the sun, and the Thames at your end of the Atlantic, and rather at our end of the Atlantic, and the Hudson at your end, used to freeze every winter. That was because the sun wasn't very active and the planet cooled down. The sun in the last century was more active than at almost any time in the last 11,700 years since the end of the last ice age, and naturally some warming has resulted from that. And they're trying to blame all of this and more on global warming, when actually it's mainly the sun and not
But if it's a 12,000-year cycle, aren't we coming to the end of it in the next couple hundred years?
Well, these cycles come and go. There are 41,000-year cycles, there are 110,000-year cycles. These are known as the Milankovitch cycles of the orbital eccentricity, the orbital obliquity of the Earth, and also the precession of the equinoxes, the libration of the Earth's axis. Those are the 3 Milankovitch cycles. They all have different cycle lengths, and we don't really know exactly what influence they have. What we do know is that over the very short term, you won't notice much difference from them. They're long-term events. Short-term warming and cooling that we've seen is largely caused by solar variability. This is very well known, very well established in the literature in the learned journals of solar physics. There have been many people now...
Well, exactly, and I can't believe we have to sit here explaining to new listeners that may be liberals or totalitarian cult members that the sun... if we're closer to it, if we're turned towards it, that's why we have the seasons, and that's why on one side of the planet it'll be warmer, on the other side it's colder. I can't believe that they call us conspiracy theorists. For those that don't know, there are major articles in The Guardian and others making jokes about this, claiming it's not the sun, which, of course, if we didn't have the sun, we'd be absolute zero in a matter of days and all be deader than a doornail. I mean, I just can't believe that they argue with this.
I mean, they've almost got to the point where they're telling us that the seasons are caused by man-made global warming. It's getting more and more childish as time goes on, but there hasn't now been any global warming for 18 years and 9 months, and you can bet that not 1 in 1,000 of the 40,000 delegates crammed into the sheds surrounding the private jet airport where Al Gore and other wasters flew in, you can bet that not one of them even knows there hasn't been any global warming, because the one thing that's been very evident, Alex, at these conferences over recent years is the one thing they do not discuss is either the science or the economics of global warming. They are no longer concerned with that. They're concerned only with introducing a totalitarian world government as soon as they...
Well, let's talk about that. They were very close 5 years ago at Copenhagen. You got the secret tax that was a giant tax increase on poor people. Their class baiting blew up in their face. They're still back trying to ram it through. How's it going for them? I mean, I know it's so secretive now because it's so open and liberal that it's hard to ferret out info, but what have you gotten your hands on?
The main thing is that they are still willing, for the moment, to allow any country that wishes to leave the process to give just 1 year's notice, as long as they wait 3 years from the signing of this agreement, and then they can break free of it. And as long as that stays in, at least we have some hope. But otherwise, increasingly, the conference is moving towards saying we can only have half a Celsius degree more global warming than the temperature is today before the planet will fry. Now, this, of course, is complete nonsense, but that is the new limit they're setting themselves, and I'll tell you why they're setting it. Because privately, some of them have begun to work out that the exaggerated forecasts of the UN's climate panel have proven to be wild exaggerations on all the measures of temperature that we've had since 1990, when they first made the exaggerated predictions on which the scare is founded. They've begun to realize this, and so now they're saying even the tiniest little, I mean, half a Celsius degree is less than the difference between walking from one room to another in your house. And they're suddenly saying that if that happened to the globe as a whole, this would be catastrophe. Well, of course, it is sheer rodomontade. It's complete nonsense. It's just made up. But they're now programmed to go ahead and try and enact this nonsense. But it doesn't really matter because they haven't really succeeded in making any binding commitments on anybody.
So they may try to extend it a few days like they always do?
They will try that, but President Hollande, who is the president of France, and he, of course, is hurting quite badly at the moment because the anti-immigration Marine Le Pen and her Front National has taken an enormous victory with 28% of the vote, beating the Socialist Party and the slightly less socialist Republican Party into second and third place, respectively. And if Le Pen remains the largest party by 2017, when the next presidential elections come on, we could have a National Front anti-immigration leader in charge of France. And similar things could happen in Britain if UKIP continues its advance there, because we too are in favor of sensibly regulating immigration rather than collapsing our borders.
Well, Lord Monckton, let me expand on that. As you know, John Coleman, prestigious meteorologist, founder of the Weather Channel, was on with us last week, and he said hi to you. He was watching the day before when you were on and when Donald Trump was on, and he brought up the point that you had said that you thought we'd turn the corner and we're winning. I agree. Every indicator shows that, at least intellectually, scientifically, factually. But he said they're so totalitarian, they'll just move forward. But he says he just thinks it'll be a long fight where you never even see who wins. It's just that technology and science and free market, even though stunted by the socialists and the collectivists, will grow so fast and be so alluring that we will just innovate out of this. But that's why the command and controllers are trying to stunt innovation, is because they're threatened by it. And I know you're an expert on these people. You worked in the Margaret Thatcher government and had to deal with them. Can you elaborate on where you see the fight against these kleptocrats being right now?
I think what's going to happen, Alex, is that more and more organizations like your own are going to spring into being, not just in the media sector, but in other sectors. I'm working quite hard, for instance, at the moment with people in several countries. And the French libertarians that I was at a party with last night were fascinated by this. We're looking at establishing our own independent, global, fully asset-funded currency, one that really can't inflate. And that is something which will simply take the world by surprise, because it isn't actually illegal to do this. As long as you don't call it a currency, as long as you don't issue notes and coin, you can still let people draw on it on their credit cards and have savings accounts in it, but at least they'll know that unlike the Federal Reserve, which has taken 99 cents out of every dollar since it was founded in 1913 by catastrophic bad management over the last 102 years, if you'd had one of ours, you'd have $5,000 instead of $1 now because of the appreciation in value. And so what we're going to do is to start setting up parallel institutions that were previously the province of government. We're not going to try to call ourselves governments. We're not going to do what the UN's trying to do here at Le Bourget. What we are going to do is simply to set up our own parallel activities that government previously regarded jealously as its own preserve. And gradually, governments will, in Marx's phrase, wither away because they will become less and less relevant as they...
Well, that's what Coleman's saying. I mean, as you're saying, and he's a guy that started a company that, sold for billions, he knows what he's doing, is we just have to innovate our way out. We have to have art. We have to have our own culture. We have to have our own free will and aggressively stand up for ourselves, but also laugh and ridicule at the so-called intellectuals who are really just a stunted cult of miscreant control freaks.
Well, that's exactly right. And John Coleman, I'm a huge admirer of his. He has had the courage, and it takes courage in the media these days, to stand up to the nonsense. And he's been very successful in being a voice of calm on the West Coast. And there aren't very many voices of calm on the West Coast in the land of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has just come out and said that people ought to go into their sheds and shut the door and turn on the engine of their car and not be allowed to turn it off for an hour and see what they like, see how they feel like at the end of that hour.
That would kill you.
It would indeed kill you dead. And this is the kind of craziness that we're now getting from apparently sober senior figures in the global government.
Well, I want to, sir, I hadn't heard about this Arnold thing. I'm sure I missed it in the stacks of news today. But he says, I mean, that's dangerous to say, go in your car, go in your garage and do this. That will kill you in about 10 minutes, folks. He says, do it for an hour. People will probably do this with their kids, and they'll be called, holy ones. Oh, murder your children for the earth so Arnold can have 200 cars and 5 tanks and 20 jets. By the way, one of my lead stories today was going to be this particular article from CNN, and I haven't gotten to it yet. I'll ask Lord Monckton about it. Trump is threatening to leave the Republican Party if the entire leadership of it doesn't keep calling for him to step down and leave, when he would get 60+%, what is it, 67% in major polls of the Republican vote as a third-party candidate. Trump says his backers would support an independent bid. And he's saying, look, I'm going to run as a Republican, but stop trying to kick me out. I did what Jimmy Carter, did. All I'm saying is, until they check visas, until they vet people, you got to block people coming in out of these Muslim countries. But he's miscalculating in a way. The Republican leadership wants to fail. They're bought and paid for. They're run by the Democrats. That's how big a political horse they are, most of them. But there's certainly a fight on big time. Meanwhile, I did find the article. Schwarzenegger did just come out and say, basically, if you don't support renewable energies, that means give them the power, let their industries get taxpayer money. He's made so much money in inside deals with Enron, you name it, literally. I mean, just look at Schwarzenegger. What a joke. I mean, give me a break. Perfect, though, in Conan the Barbarian. That's a movie. He deserved an Academy Award for that because he's actually playing himself. And he is a barbarian looting us, though. He's not a noble savage. And then you got Angela Merkel, who's now been declared Person of the Year by Time Magazine. Why don't you give her a peace prize? It's like toilet paper now to get that award. Because she opened the borders and flooded them with globalism and is arresting Germans that criticize open borders. What do you think Merkel and Schwarzenegger really deserve, Lord Monckton?
What they deserve what's just about to happen to Greenpeace, because, as you know, Patrick Moore, the founder of Greenpeace, has now separated himself from that organization, and he announced in a shock move here yesterday that he had submitted a complaint to the FBI against Greenpeace under the RICO statute, under the wire fraud statute, under the tampering with witnesses statute, and under the obstruction of Congress statute, because Greenpeace had tried to do an entrapment operation on Professor Will Happer, one of the 2 or 3 most eminent physicists in the world, and an absolutely straight and honest man. They set up a bogus corporation which was established in the Beirut souk in a crumbling concrete building in offices you rent by the hour. And from there, they tried to entrap Will Happer, who, of course, being a good man, played it with a completely straight bat. But they nevertheless pretended that he had been dishonest and had taken money he shouldn't have taken from fossil fuel companies. And they tried to badger him in the hearing room immediately before the hearing. And he called them sons of bitches and told them to get out. And eventually security dragged them away. And I hope they've locked them up in a cell somewhere. But Patrick Moore is one of many people who have written to the FBI and saying enough is enough. Greenpeace is, in Patrick Moore's phrase, now an enemy of humanity and an enemy of the earth and an enemy of all species and all life.
And that's what Putin's saying. He says the carbon tax is an enemy of humanity to destroy nation states and bankrupt people. I mean, how big of a game changer is that to have Putin come out and say this is all pure baloney?
Well, Putin, of course, originally did have that view because his economic advisor 10 years ago, Dr. Andrei Ilarionov, advised him that global warming was nonsense after he'd listened to a nincompoop called Sir David King, who is now the chief UK negotiator, who's here bleating away at these talks in Le Bourget. But listening to him in 2004 in Moscow, Ilarionov came to the view and told Putin there was no problem about global warming and they should no longer believe in it.
There's no doubt Putin's waking up. Do 5 more minutes with us. Back in 70 seconds, Lord Monckton. Then Tucker Carlson on election 2016. The right wing has produced tyrants in the past. The left wing has as well. But as Lord Monckton points out, going back to China thousands of years ago, you have the libertarians and the totalitarians. And that's openly there what they taught, the totalitarians and the libertarians. Or the whole Confucius movement versus the pro-imperials oppressing the population. And you sit here and you watch classic authoritarian totalitarians run around lecturing everyone, screaming that they want to arrest you. You have to understand, I have to actually water down what I say because I can't even believe it. I can't even believe they had multiple newspapers and TV stations say that the Christians deserve to die when these Muslims killed them because Christianity's hateful. I mean, New York Daily News had a major headline with that. And when you come to grips with what hateful, weird freaks these people are, and they have scientific studies in Canada and the UK that environmentalists are 6 times more likely to rob or steal or to lie, but they're more likely to say they're making donations. And Lord Monckton, you got 4 minutes left on this point, but I think you're hitting it on the head there, that these are not liberals. These are not Thomas Jeffersons that we're talking about. These people are a cult of stunted, mentally ill people and their con artist controllers.
We must start taking back the language. The so-called Democratic Party are not Democrats. We must call them what they are, the totalitarians. The so-called liberals are not liberal. We must call them what they are, which is totalitarians. The so-called radicals are not radical. We must call them what they are, communist totalitarians. Let us no longer allow them to steal our language to make themselves seem fragrant when in fact they stink. It's high time that we got tough on these people, and your audience here can help, Alex. You can look up the story about how Patrick Moore has complained to the FBI about a nasty attempt, a failed attempt, which has backfired very badly on Greenpeace, this hate-filled organization, to entrap Professor Will Happer just before he was due to give testimony in the U.S. Congress, an excellent testimony he gave too. And you too can look up the story, and if you think that Patrick Moore was right to put in a complaint to the FBI, then get onto the FBI website, click to the link that allows you to make a complaint, and add your voice to his. Just tell the FBI that it is not acceptable that people should go around intimidating witnesses due to appear before Congress. The Greenpeace has behaved illegally under the RICO statute and the wire fraud statute also by setting up a bogus company in the Beirut souk and pretending to operate from there and pretending to entrap people like Happer, who of course is so honest they absolutely failed, but of course they still spun it as though they had caught him out taking money from hated fossil fuel companies. Even if he had taken money from them, which he didn't, and he made it quite plain that he didn't, he still wouldn't have been doing anything wrong. He's a very honorable man, and he always makes it plain.
But they admit that almost all the big fossil fuel companies support the global warming fraud.
They do indeed. ExxonMobil is one of the largest subsidizers of this fraud.
I'm still waiting for my check from the oil companies. I haven't ever gotten one.
I'm still waiting for it. Mine hasn't come this week at all. And the problem is this, Alex, that these companies are themselves now in danger of being dragged into what has become, and the word you've just used is the correct word, a global fraud. And one of the things that we, on the questioning side of the debate, have decided to do here at Le Bourget is to establish our own fraud investigation team under the aegis of the independent committee on geoethics, which is a committee of very eminent professors from around the world, and one by one we're going to start investigating.
Yes, do what Project Veritas does. Lord Monckton, when this conference is over next week, we want to get a final update from you when you're back there in Scotland or back in England. Thank you so much. God bless you and be careful.
God bless you, God bless America, and the truth will win whether they like it or not.
Don't forget, they beat him up a few years ago at one of these conferences, so he is in danger. The more we put our reporters out there on the ground, the more the establishment freaks out and tries to misrepresent what we've said, what we've done, what we stand for. And they do that to everybody else who's a libertarian or a constitutionalist. They do it to Tucker Carlson. They do it to World Net Daily. They do it to Matt Drudge. They do it to Donald Trump. And it's not that Donald Trump's perfect, but and it can be seen as extreme because we're a free, open society, that, hey, until we get a handle on things and until they're vetting people's visas and until Congress acts to at least look at who's coming in, we will block every single Muslim coming into this country. Well, they only had the we will block every single Muslim coming into the country. Turns out that's what Jimmy Carter did. He kicked all the Iranians out, basically, and wouldn't let them come in during that whole situation. That's what countries do. You can't go to Saudi Arabia and preach the gospel of Christ. You'll be imprisoned, if you're lucky, sometimes executed. So it's all about misrepresentation. But their hoaxes don't work anymore. For 2 days, they said there wasn't any Islamic terror in San Bernardino, California. That doesn't work anymore. Now, joining us until about 50 after is Tucker Carlson. He's a 20-year-plus media veteran with a wide variety of experience in journalism, currently at Fox News. Carlson has also been CNN, MSNBC, PBS, you name it, GQ magazine. But really what he's best known for, in my view, is the hard-hitting news exposing both sides of the police state, everything from Black Lives Matter to the private Federal Reserve, you name it, dailycaller.com, which is a mainstay when you see links at Infowars.com or places like DrudgeReport.com. There's so much to cover. Trump, where the dinosaur media is. Are they really on their last legs? I mean, I know you're on Fox. I wouldn't call it dinosaur media because it's at least somewhat conservative, and so it has a big audience. But the others don't have audiences. They're facades. I mean, I can turn on a Facebook mentions at home and get 1.5 million viewers anytime I want. Their biggest show doesn't have 500,000. So when does the zombie finally fall down and die, or can it not die because it's already dead? Tucker Carlson.
I've never heard it put that way, but I love it. I mean, you're watching it die now, and you're watching Donald Trump benefit from its death. I mean, in my view, the worst thing about Trump is the media reaction to him, which is so hyperventilating and self-righteous. It's merely an excuse for reporters to explain that they're morally superior to Donald Trump. You know, he's a bad person. They're great people. It's a vehicle for their vanity and self-aggrandizement. It's disgusting. And, you know, there are things about Trump that I don't agree with, and there are certainly things about his rhetoric that I think ought to be more precise, that he'll explain better. But none of that really compares in emotional impact to the feeling I get watching the press whine about him and declare him dangerous. Every time I hear that, I feel like sending him money.
I agree with you. What about Senator Lindsey Graham, the beauty queen? He is up there just saying it's race baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. Let's watch that clip from the Communist News Network.
Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. He's the ISIL Man of the Year, by the way. Just got back from Iraq a week ago this Monday.
Hillary, we played the clip last hour, also says that he's playing right in the hands of ISIS. Last time I checked, he didn't run the State Department that helped build up ISIS. We have the former head of Defense Intelligence himself saying that. Tucker, let yourself talk. Jump in here. Where do you see all this going?
Well, I mean, Lindsey Graham is the one who doesn't represent, obviously, the views of the Republican Party. Look at the numbers. I mean, I don't dislike Lindsey Graham as a person, but he has no constituency. And he has, it strikes me, no deep knowledge of the region. He's the one who's forever telling us we need to arm this or that group about which he knows nothing. He's not an Arabic speaker. And yet he's always telling us this is a group of freedom fighters and your son needs to go fight on their behalf, et cetera, et cetera. It's every bit. In fact, it's more reckless than anything Donald Trump has ever said. Here's the real reason people like Trump's recent statement on stopping Islamic immigration or putting a pause on it. The message is really clear. Donald Trump, I would be shocked if Donald Trump awoke in the middle of the night seething with hatred toward Muslims. I don't know, but I doubt it.
He doesn't.
I think Donald Trump is just really worried that we're going to see more terror attacks in the country. And you look at Europe and its inability over 70 years to integrate and assimilate large Muslim populations. And it does make you wonder, like, what do you know, we don't want to be Sweden or Belgium or France. So what steps do we need to take in order to not become them? That's a totally reasonable and rational conclusion to reach. Maybe you don't think that stopping all Muslim immigration is the answer, but at least the question is an essential question, and only Trump seems to be asking it. Why is that?
Well, it's an extreme statement, but it's extreme to have 80% being military-age men, 80+% fake passports. Mainly these are Sunni invaders into Syria. That's all admitted, who got their butt kicked. They're now going into Turkey, going into Europe. And just a month or so ago, Trump said, hey, we've got to let these poor refugees in. We've got to take them. His own constituents said, hey, a lot of them are terrorists. He got informed, and then he changed his mind. He knows there's going to be more terror attacks after Paris and now San Bernardino.
That's right.
And they're taking him out of context. He doesn't dislike anybody.
Well, exactly. And again, you have to compare the recklessness of Trump, and sometimes he is reckless, with the recklessness of the people who now run everything. And Lindsey Graham is a perfect representative of that group. Right after the Paris terror attacks, Lindsey Graham was not only calling for more Syrian immigration into the United States, but saying anyone who opposed it was somehow a nativist or a bigot or a bad person or immoral or on the wrong side of God. Really? I mean, there's no room for debate on this? I mean, ask yourself the question, does any adult really believe that Germany will be improved by 1 million refugees from Syria and surrounding countries, Pakistan, because they're not just Syrians? I don't think anybody really believes that, and yet Time magazine just gave Angela Merkel the Person of the Year award, and it is in fact an award, to congratulate her for doing that. What's the effect of that kind of immigration? It makes the people in power feel virtuous. They get to feel like good people, but they don't have to deal with any of the consequences of it. They don't send their children to public school. They're not competing for jobs with these people. They're surrounded by armed bodyguards that taxpayers pay for. There's really no downside for them, but there's a massive downside for everybody else. They are out of touch. They really don't care about the effect of their policies on the people they're supposed to be representing. And we really ought to be outraged about that. And I'm hardly like some wild-eyed populist. I think I'm pretty reasonable and mainstream. But it's worth being mad about that. Madder indeed than people are at Donald Trump. Like, who's really at fault here?
Well, let's take Huma Abedin, who I notice you have a picture behind you of her on your wall with that Ringling Brothers. It actually does look like her. Hillary Clinton's special friend. I don't care if Hillary has special friends. I'm a libertarian like you are. But if this was Trump or a conservative, we know there'd be a spotlight on it. And then her whole background, she seems to just get away with everything. I think that also sticks in people's craw, that these Democrats and establishment Republicans are above the law. They don't get reviewed. They don't get looked at. And then Hillary's little hippo, she can do whatever she wants and, you know, stay in the same hotel room or whatever. I mean, this should be looked into. And then Drudge and you and others get criticized for investigating Hillary's health, investigating her taste in women. I mean, isn't all of this open game?
Huma Abedin, let's just assess the public record, okay? That's enough. I mean, I'm willing to give everyone a pass on their private lives or whatever.
Well, why do you have a picture of her on your wall? Sorry, go ahead.
It's from the 40s. It predates even Huma. But she sent out an email 2 days ago in which she called Donald Trump, quote, a racist for opposing Islamic immigration, as if Islam is a race rather than a religion. It's not a racial ethnic category. That's insane. Now, that is exactly the kind of language, of rhetoric that divides people, that makes people hate each other, that whips the population into a greater frenzy. Again, that's every bit as irresponsible as anything Donald Trump has suggested. And unlike Donald Trump, she's actually in a position of power. I mean, Huma Abedin was a federal official, a State Department official, up until pretty recently, a Clinton administration, rather an Obama administration official. And yet she can send an email like that out and nobody cares. You know, it's fine. It's just a reaction. He's dangerous. No wonder she's upset. It is all of this. The Trump phenomenon is a reaction against that. And I tell people who are upset, a lot of Republicans in Washington, as you know, are horrified by Trump. They hate him more than they hate Obama. He's a direct threat to their power. And I always say to them, there's a reason he's here, and that's because you have been a bad steward of this party. The president has been a bad steward of the federal government. A lot of the business community have been bad stewards of the economy. The people running things haven't done a very good job, so it shouldn't surprise you that someone like Donald Trump arrives on the scene and gets really popular by telling the truth about your failures. Like, why is that shocking?
Tucker Carlson's our guest, Fox News, foxnews.com, dailycaller.com. That's got to be the quote of the last week or so, the most crystallized, boiled-down truth, that last 20 seconds. That's it. They don't dislike him because he's a bigot or he's hateful. They hate him because he'll win. He's not part of their power structure. They've been caught working with the Democrats, and he represents the Tea Party, the Libertarians, taking over the grand old party and kicking these weasels out of Toad Hall who have invaded and taken over. And he is a bellwether of that, and they're panicking.
What's so funny is they're in a lather this morning about the idea that he might run third party. Here's a newsflash. He already is running third party. He's already broken with Republican orthodoxy on economics. He's attacked the hedge fund people. He's broken with them on foreign policy. He's pointed out the Iraq war was a disaster. That's not allowed, but he did it anyway. He's being attacked by the head of the RNC. He's hated by donors. He's hated by lobbyists. He's hated by the entire Washington establishment and the other candidates. Or some of them say they won't vote for him.
He's
incredible.
Actually
he's not running as a Republican. Here's a newsflash, and maybe that's why he's succeeding. Because and again, I've always kind of voted Republican because I don't see a choice. But the truth is the Republican coalition for 40 years has been a combination of libertarian economic policy and neoconservative foreign policy, and neither one has worked for a lot of people in the middle of the country. That's just the truth, okay? And
it's not delivering. And if we don't watch out, we're going to get a Bernie Sanders or a Hillary. We can't stand it. And so the Republicans, I think, ought to back off, reassess what's happening, really try to talk to Trump, bring him in, then he would listen to them. But now that I know some of the inside baseball, 3 or 4 months ago, I wasn't sure about Trump. A month ago, I wasn't. But now, that, like you said, going after the hedge fund boys, that's the top of the pyramid. That's the too big to fails. He is really showing the fact that he's going after the establishment and now threatening them to go third party if they don't stop demonizing him and shrilly trying to outdo MSNBC. I mean, Lindsey Graham and all these Republicans, and I hate to say it, even some people I've supported, are trying to sound more like Democrats than anybody ever heard. They're not going to win like that. I mean, how stupid are they? Don't they get the mainstream media is the last group you want endorsing you? Exactly. But Trump is radical because he's not tied to anyone. So take, for example, carried interest. It's a loophole in the tax code that allows some people in the finance business, hedge fund managers, among others, to take their income as investment dividends. In other words, they pay half the tax that the rest of us wage earners pay. Now, this is obviously wrong. They won't even defend it in public. I'm pro-capitalist, and I'm opposed to it. It's indefensible. And yet 7 years under the Obama administration, a supposedly radical left-wing redistributionist administration, they've allowed this to remain in the tax code. They've never gone after it for 7 years, okay? It took Donald Trump to stand up, a billionaire, obviously a beneficiary of capitalism, to say, this is totally unfair. You can't be tax exempt when housewives and working mothers and people are paying 20% tax. You can't be tax exempt, bozos. There's not going to be an economy if you keep setting the playing field where it's crooked.
Exactly. But I think people underestimate how radical it is for the Republican frontrunner to say this, or even to make an obvious point. You know, he's not attacking our soldiers or even Bush or Cheney. He's just pointing out, look, the Iraq war didn't go that well. And would you do it again? Of course not. That's a stupid question even to ask. And yet he was the only one in the Republican field who would say something that obvious. No, that's right. Overall, he's a true maverick. Let me ask you this then. Yes. I mean, in your gut, you're not making predictions here, Tucker, but you're a smart political analyst. You made a lot of accurate predictions. What do you think, just in your gut, is going to end up happening with Trump? Where is this going? Because just as a spectator, just from that position, this is fantastical for the news cycle. I mean, every 5 minutes it's something new. Where is this going? It's the Media Full Employment Act. It's unbelievable. I have been usually right in my predictions, not because I'm so smart, because it's pretty easy to predict what's going to happen in American politics. It always has been. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's going to happen. My only prediction is this. If he wins the Florida primary, which is far more important than any other, it's a state you can't become president without winning. It's far more representative of the country than Iowa or New Hampshire. If he wins that in a state where Jeb was the governor and Marco Rubio is a sitting senator, how can you deny him the nomination? If he wins, that's when you'll know in March, the Florida primary. If Trump is still in and wins that, he will be the nominee.
Well, he's now gone on national television and said it's not about their religion, it is about safety. And
right.
in his full speech, he said they're not vetting him, they're not checking him, that's why we got to do it for a limited time till it's fixed. He let them take him out of context, but in a way, people then get mad at him, then they find out what he really said, and then they get madder at the controlled media. I mean, even I, when I first saw the headline a few days ago, a day and a half ago, thought, oh, he's crazy. And then you find out what he really said. It just reminds you how much they will spin and deceive. Now, remember, since we mentioned this, here's Trump a couple months ago saying we've got to take the refugees because of what they've been through. So here's Donald Trump before he has the facts, shooting his mouth off, saying we got to take the refugees. Then he goes to the extreme of saying, you know, we can't take them till it's fixed. Here it is.
Look, from a humanitarian standpoint, I'd love to help, but we have our own problems. We have so many problems that we have to solve. You have over there the Gulf states, tremendously wealthy. You have five groups
I thought
of
they
people,
found it. That's the walk back a week later. That's him going on, I think that's Fox News, walking it back. On Hannity. There's another one where he gives a speech where he says, quote, we've got to take them. The quote is... go ahead, Tucker, sorry.
Well, it's just not surprising. Americans are compassionate people, and their first instinct is always to help. I mean, you're walking through Midtown Manhattan, and a Japanese tourist with no English says, where's Times Square? 20 people rush to help him. I mean, that's just kind of who we are. So it's not surprising that anybody asked that question from a dead sleep would say, yeah, of course we should help them. The question is not, is that your instinct? The question is, knowing all the facts and watching what happened in Paris and watching the failure to assimilate of these large Muslim populations in Europe, do you still think it's a good idea then? And here's my question. Is Trump's position more reckless and crazy than the mainstream position, which is, despite all the evidence, let's just invite thousands of Syrians right from the battlefield to come to America at taxpayer expense, literally flown over on American aircraft at your expense to go on welfare? Is which one of these positions is nuttier? And I don't know. Again, I'm not endorsing Trump for president. Hardly. There are a lot of things about Trump I don't like. But on the merits, Trump's position is less crazy than that position. That position is just flat out anti-American. And by the way, the Constitution does not require us to commit suicide. There's no amendment.
It's not a suicide pact. In fact, I did find one of the articles, Front Page Magazine. It was from one of the debates. We'll put it on screen for folks. We have the actual quote for TV viewers, for radio listeners. I'll read it out. Trump, Rubio, Bush, we should take in Syrian refugees. Trump, quote, on a humanitarian basis, something does have to be done. So there he was before all these people got shot and blown up in Europe and the United States. And what is Obama thinking, Tucker? Let me ask you this question. If you bring in hundreds of thousands of these people who are mainly Sunnis from war zones, a lot of them soldiers, a lot of them ISIS, it keeps coming out. You bring millions into Europe. Don't they know there's going to be more attacks? How will they politically get away with this? And why would they want to do this? It's so destructive.
Well, they get away with it politically because they change the composition of the electorate over time. And that's exactly, as you know, what's happened since 1965, when immigration law changed to favor people from outside of Europe. And there are probably some good things about that. There are also some bad things about it, which we never mention. We lie about it and pretend it's all good because we get better restaurants and cheap servants. But the truth is, it was a massive boon for the Democratic Party because the overwhelming majority of those immigrants in the last 50 years have become Democrats and stayed Democrats. But it has made the country less cohesive and more divided, and there have been all kinds of other unattractive effects of it. It's affected our education system. It's affected our economy in ways that are bad and really troubling over the long term. I mean, but from a Democratic point of view, if you're David Plouffe planning out, how to win the White House unto the generations for the next 9 cycles, your go-to position is more immigration from the third world because that means more Democratic voters. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt on motive. I don't know what motivates people most of the time, and I tried not to pretend that I do. But on this specific subject, having talked to these guys a lot,
well, they
see immigration as a way to change the demographics of the country in a way that helps them. That's just true.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take third world populations and, they work hard, they get a job, the American dream, they're great. You indoctrinate them into socialist, chip on the shoulder, trigger word garbage, where they can't see a Christmas tree or they fall down literally crying, no, not Halloween, no, don't let them have a party. And then the Yale professors have stepped down now. They're creating a freakazoid cult. Yeah, what about the political correctness? I mean, I love Trump because he's the opposite of that.
Well, he is. The problem with the political correctness on campus, and it's not just on campus, but it starts there, is that it's really an attack on speech. I understand. I've got a minority view on politics. My views are not popular with most people. I don't pretend they are. I'm way out by myself. I get it. And it doesn't bother me. The only thing, the line that the left crosses that makes me worried, really upset, is when they try to prevent me from expressing my views, when they equate opinions they disagree with violence. And that's exactly what trigger warnings are all about. That's exactly what safe spaces are all about. That's exactly why Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, said the other day, if you criticize Islam in a way we don't like, we'll prosecute you. These are all attacks on freedom of expression, on speech, constitutionally protected speech. They don't believe in the First Amendment, and the polls show this. A strikingly large percentage of Democrats, when asked, say, yes, there will be limits to the First Amendment, and those limits begin when you start offending protected groups. That's scary. None of us want to live in a country where we can't say what we believe is true, period.
Tucker Carlson's our guest for one more segment. I've been asking a lot of the questions, but in the first half of this next segment, it's 18 minutes long, I'm going to let him bring up whatever topics he wants, because I want to hear what he's focused on, what he sees coming up. Then I've got some other questions I want to go over with him. What's going on with Putin? Talking about using nukes now on ISIS. I know that's just rhetoric, but wow. What does he make of what's happening in Turkey and other things straight ahead? Tucker Carlson, thedailycaller.com.
Is the U.S. involved with any procuring of weapons, transfer of weapons, buying, selling, anyhow transferring weapons to Turkey out of Libya?
To Turkey?
It is a big idea, a new world order.
How is it that this organization is so well-funded, so organized?
Islamic State-linked militants have gained a stronger foothold in Libya, seizing new economically vital areas of the country.
The leader of ISIS in Libya is none other than Abdel Hakim Belhaj, and of course he was armed to the teeth by NATO.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
The Russians say they're negotiating with North Korea to hold joint military exercises. Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin teaming up, creating an ominous alliance against the United States.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is aggressively opposing the nuclear deal that the U.S. government is negotiating with Iran.
Saudi Arabia is apparently prepared to allow Israeli jets into its airspace to conduct attacks on Iran.
We have an unprecedented opportunity to build a new world order.
I set up a foundation in Ukraine and played an important part in events now.
Ukraine is set to receive the first tranche of an International Monetary Fund aid package.
We had brokered a deal to transition power in Ukraine.
Vladimir Putin is on the move.
Only when this transformation is complete will we be able to take full measure of the opportunities presented by this new and involving world order.
It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
You're listening to the Alex Jones Show. I'm Alex Jones. We've added the fourth hour of the broadcast. Anthony Gucciardi's hosting today with Dr. Grube in studio. They'll be opening the phones up as well. And then, of course, we'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central, InfoWars Nightly News, and back tomorrow with a weekday broadcast as well. Tucker Carlson of thedailycaller.com, one of the founders of it, one of the owners of it, joins us. I could say one of the main pundits and analysts, too, on Fox News. And even though Fox News has millions of viewers an hour, I really just think it's a bigger deal to have your own successful news organization that has journalists all over the country and all over the world, because the dinosaur media, and Fox will be the last to go, really is on its way out. And I don't know what the establishment's going to do in the wake of that. I just see how arrogant and delusional even mainstream reporters are to this day. I mean, Obama's average YouTube video gets like 5,000 now. When some kid reporting from the middle of nowhere gets 5 million. And it's not just 5 million once or twice or 10 times or 20 times. It's consistently now for new media. And I'm a well-known libertarian. Conspiracy theorist, call me whatever you want. I don't believe a word these people say. And they also take out of context what we do talk about, but it hasn't worked. And so before Tucker gets into topics that I know are near and dear to his heart, because I want to hear these wild cards, I want to ask him, though, I don't think we can really underestimate, because I think I did. I mean, I didn't support McCain or Obama, and I think that was a mistake, even though McCain's horrible. I underestimated Obama, but I mean, I look at the average Democrat now with these man on the streets we do in Austin and in California. We're not in the Beltway. And, I mean, these Democrats, 9 out of 10 say, we go, for Obama, we're going to put gun owners in forced labor camps, and we're going to execute them. I mean, and they say, yeah, I'm sick of these gun owners. And we're like, so you want to put them in prison? And So next time we go out, we want to kill them. Yeah, let's kill them. I mean, look at people saying kill Trump. These are mainline people saying go ISIS, kill Trump, and they're not even radical Muslims. It just seems like it's now more like a dumbed-down power cult, like the Nazis or the Soviets. I don't know how to describe them, but these aren't the Democrats I grew up around who you'd agree with on a bunch of points and, you know, disagree with some. These are like deranged, crazy people in my view. Do you agree with that, or what would you call them, or what are they mutating into?
You know, it's a great question, and all the attention is on how the Republican Party has changed, and it's more extreme, and, you know, it has changed in a lot of ways, but not as much as the Democratic Party has changed. The Democratic Party, from our life, we're about the same age, for our lifetimes, was the party of kind of the faculty lounge, affluent white intellectuals on college campuses, of course, of minority voters and of the poor. But it was also the party of, like, the working man. They always claimed that, and they were right, actually. The average wage earner was a Democrat because he thought the party was on his side. It is no longer that. The Democratic Party is the party of left-wing intellectuals and of people who are wholly dependent on government, who need government help. And so, of course, the Democratic Party is their natural home. There's nobody in the middle. They don't represent normal people anymore.
So it's a gang. It's a gang. It's a gang.
It completely is. And so without the leavening effect of normal people with jobs and families, and, you know, and maybe a week of deer hunting every fall, they have no reference points for what's normal. And the authoritarian impulse, which has always been on the left, because the left believes that politics is the way to improve the world and human nature itself. So they take politics much more seriously than the right does, for sure. That authoritarian impulse has nothing to hold it back.
That's right.
And it's in full flower. And the gun issue, I don't even talk about it much on the air because it makes me too emotional. And I become tongue-tied because it makes me so angry. But I'll just make the obvious point that I know your viewers agree with. But they're not even pretending that gun control will make the country safer, because it demonstrably won't, or prevent terrorism. It's absurd. They don't even try. They're basically just saying that anybody with a gun, or certain kinds of guns, is prima facie evil, which is to say they're part of another culture, one that we're not a part of, that needs to be stamped out and destroyed. And let's just go ahead and use this national crisis to hurt these people. I mean, that's kind of their open pitch. They're not even pretending anymore. It's really ominous.
Very well said. I couldn't say it that good. That crystallized again, which is really your skill at just boiling down this. They are a cult of totalitarian intellectuals who want total power, see everyone else as an enemy. They have radicalized their party, which has radicalized the Republican Party, but they are the real drivers of that. Then they have this giant constituency that don't work, who are scared and programmed by the lies that the intellectual left is telling them. So it's a giant gang run by a control freak cult waging war on the family, language, the individual. It's a nightmare scenario.
I think that is true. And the most lasting damage they will do, though, is introducing a hard kind of ethnic politics into American life, where their appeals are explicitly racial. Republicans are white. They hate you. They don't understand you. They're unreasonably racist. This is the president's point in almost every address he gives. The real threat is bigotry here at home. It scares the hell out of people. There are a lot of non-white voters who I think are open-minded, who know they're not being served by the Democratic Party, who might be willing to look elsewhere. But they can't. Understandably, they can't, because they've been told for generations that the Republican Party hates them because of the way they look. And once you think somebody hates you, you're not open to appeals from that person or that group anymore. You shut down, right? And so they've created, really, they've been instrumental in creating a really tough kind of ethnic politics that doesn't go away. These wounds linger. And the one thing you don't want in your country is ethnic politics, because it's not resolvable. If you and I disagree on an issue, issues come and go. You know, they're resolved. Our ethnicity is immutable. It doesn't change. And so if we hate each other because of our ethnic differences, our children will hate each other because of their ethnic differences. This is the story of world history. And
it's the story of the Tower of Babel, of the broken coalition strategy, where everyone's so divided and conquered, you can never agree about a Second Amendment or private property or sovereignty or anything, because you're just too obsessed over your identity politics.
Exactly. And that, man, you don't even, it's a very effective way to mobilize voters, by the way. If you have a candidate like Hillary, who doesn't have a very impressive record to run on, she's not going to be running on her tenure as Secretary of State or her years as senator from New York. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. So she's going to be running on ethnic politics, identity politics entirely. I'm a woman. My opponent is not. You're mad at your ex-husband, vote for me. Or it's time to give a woman a shot. And they're the white party. You resent them. They have things that are rightfully yours. Vote for me. Boy, that works. I mean, it'll probably get her elected, or it could get her elected in any case. but it will have effects that our grandchildren will be living with and that are very unhappy and very dangerous. They shouldn't do that.
Sure. I've seen these news articles where it'll show like 20, 30, 40 women, depending on the article. It'll say the women of Hillary or the women press of Hillary.
Right.
And they admit it's ideology. They do whatever she says because she's a woman. And they're kind of advertising out in the open that they've gotten rid of any, you know, real journalistic integrity. And I think a lot of this is because the Republicans, back when my grandfather was becoming a Republican, you know, the first in the family's history in Texas, he come back from World War II. He thought it was wrong that black people were being discriminated against.
Right.
He became a Republican, ran for office in East Texas, won. The family got mad at him, but accepted it. But the point was, the Republicans passed the Civil Rights Act in the late 50s. Eisenhower sending in the troops to integrate the schools. The Republicans have the moral high ground, and then they start losing elections. So they do the Southern strategy, flip, start acting like Democrats in the South. The Democrats flip and then start doing minority politics. They're the original party of the Klan. The Republicans played that game for a decade, got branded, got set up, and now we're dealing with the most sinister, sneaky. I mean, I've been around some high-level Democrats before, years ago, and they're really racist, cold-blooded, weirdo criminals at the top. And I've got to say that they're the mafia. And the sad little Democrats just don't know who's leading them around by their nose. I mean, I'm ranting, but can you speak to the party of the Klan, the Democrats?
Again, the key difference between the left and right is the left means it. If you talk to the average staffer on a Republican campaign, he'll say, I really hope my candidate wins. He's better than the other guy. But if he loses, I'll become a lobbyist or play golf or move to Myrtle Beach or whatever. Life will continue. I'll get on with the business of my life, which is not inherently political. If you talk to the average Democratic consultant, he'll say, my guy is the best guy ever to run. The other guy is evil. Everything hangs in the balance. This will not be a constitutional republic if we lose. Like, they invest meaning in politics that Republicans can't even comprehend. Because for your average conservative or libertarian or even garden variety Republican, politics is something you do in order to create space to do the things that really matter, like get married, have children, have a business, go to church. It's what makes that possible. For Democrats, it's an end in itself. So, of course, they're willing to do things that Republicans wouldn't even conceive of doing. They're always going to be – the guy who cares more about something is always going to be better at doing it. And that's why Democrats have an inherent advantage. Their only disadvantage is the average person doesn't agree with them. But really, over time, that doesn't matter because they just imported new people who do agree with them.
That was my next question. Do you agree that we've reached a crossroads and that the Republicans have been doing some of the right things, going out and running, quote, minority candidates? Because I don't care if you're black, Hispanic, white, just don't take my guns, keep my taxes low. If you had green skin, I'd vote for you for president, you know, if you weren't supporting tyranny. I mean, do you think we're in danger of having a one-party system, the Democrats?
On the national level, we are. Not on the state level. I mean, there are plenty of states. I mean, Republicans have done great. And maybe not that it's really mattered, but they've done great in the last 3 cycles in the states. They have more governorships than they've had in generations. They have more state houses. They have obviously a big majority in Congress, biggest in 70 years, et cetera, et cetera. But for a national election, a presidential election, the math is such that it's going to be very difficult, and most Republicans know this on a gut level, to win after this cycle simply because the demographics are just so very different, much more different than people understand. The average person, I'm included, lives in a neighborhood that kind of looks like the neighborhood you grew up in, the same kind of people. But that's not America. Once you get outside of your own little bubble and see the country, you see that it's totally different. And by the way, that's not all bad. Not all changes. All change is a mixed blessing. Some of it is good. But from a political point of view, it is absolutely death for the Republicans. That was the plan from day one. They ignored it or didn't know about it. And now they're staring down the barrel of elections they can't win. And the consequences, I'll just say one last thing, the consequences are that the things that we've taken for granted, I mean, the core things we took for granted, the right to bear arms, the right to speak freely, the right to disagree with the majority, the right to assemble, the right to privacy, things that we thought were constitutionally guaranteed, suddenly nobody cares.
That's right. And now you can see
phase.
And now the Democrats know they're just an election or two away from total domination.
Right.
You see the criminal energy, the crazed eyes, the we're going to arrest you, we're going to kill you, we're going to take your guns. I mean, it really is brown shirt energy I'm seeing. And man, it's really frightening.
Well, it's power worship, and in the end, all power worship looks the same. You can dress it up as Bolshevism or Islamism or whatever you want to call it, but it's always the same. It's you will do my bidding, you will act out my will, or you will be crushed. And by the way, all of this, my core belief is that the Islamist movement is a reaction against massive changes in the world economy. So you had an agrarian world that was totally overturned by the Industrial Revolution. It displaced a lot of people. You had a lot of anxiety, and out of that, you got Bolshevism. You got worldwide communism, which lasted for 70 years. That ended. We have another massive change going from an industrial economy to a digital economy. People are completely freaked out, and they're seeking solace in nations that haven't been able to compete in the digital economy, mostly the Middle East and Africa. They're taking solace in Islamism. This is not just a religious movement. It's a reaction against radical global change. And that's meaningful because it makes it so much more dangerous. This could pop up anywhere. It's a way for people who are not succeeding in this new world to say, yes, my life has meaning. I'm going to strike out against people who are succeeding, who I'm envious of, who I think are responsible for my failure. I mean, this is a big thing. You need to think about this in terms of the Cold War, 1952. This is an existential threat to the Western way of life. I really believe that.
Tucker Carlson, thank you so much for the time. In the minute we've got left, any other points that we should know about that you're looking at that are on the radar screen?
The only thing I would say is I recently changed my view on guns, and I think the lever action 357-38 is the single flattest shooting, nicest gun I've ever owned, and I have a lot of different rifles up in Maine. I have my own shooting range. This gun is fantastic. You can deer hunt with it in the 357. The ammo is literally cheaper. 38 is literally cheaper than high-end 22s right now. It's just a terrific gun, and it's often overlooked because people think it's so old-fashioned. I got to have a black gun. I got to have an M4.
Which gun is that?
It's a Rossi lever-action 357.
Oh, I've got one of those. It's not Rossi, but those are great. You can even shoot wild hogs with those.
You can, and it's totally cheap. It's like $400. It's flat shooting. No recoil. It's just a fantastic rifle, and the ammo is going to be the last to be banned. I'm totally convinced of that.
And of course, you own stock in Rossi.
Yes.
I wish I did.
I wish I did.
Rossi has some nice handguns and shotguns and rifles. Yeah. Very inexpensive. I love them. I probably got, it's kind of sickening how many guns I own. It's one of the few things
I love that.
I'm kind of the Imeldo Marcus of shoes with guns. I got so many guns, I don't want to say the number. Tucker Carlson.
You don't want the Justice Department at your house.
Well, I mean, luckily I've never committed any crimes with them, and it's a collection, but hey, who knows? Yeah, it's an evil arsenal. Tucker Carlson, dailycaller.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
Have a Merry Christmas and a great New Year. Commit more thought crimes here on air. I'm going to skip this last break of the week. No more breaks will be skipped, I promise. Don't let me, guys, no matter how big the guest is, even if it's Donald Trump. But we're going to need time to play the winner and the runner-up in the segment after this before I hand the baton to Anthony Gucciardi and Dr. Edward Group. We're going to have the winner here. It's, how do you pronounce his name, guys? I'm public school educated. It's Rupert Quaintance. And it's youtube.com/Kiv, RESP is his channel. Infowars.com/ Rupert's Obama speech analysis. And this is the winner of $1,000. And what I'm doing is I'm doing more and more of these quick contests that are 2 or 3 days. We just had one for $1,000 that was the best War on Christmas meme, and showed the Marines at Iwo Jima hoisting up a Christmas tree, and we said, come and take it. And it's just about getting folks involved, the fun of it, rewarding some of the people that do the best. But everybody wins by engaging in free speech and free expression. That is what will counter this globalist dark age they're trying to bring in. And then runner-up is Kenneth Webb, who, of course, has changed the channel and has a bunch of my documentaries posted. I think there's like 40 million views of my documentaries on his channel. Just another channel out there that has our videos with like 40 million views. Again, just letting you know, we are the media. We are dominant now. We're bigger than CNN and MSNBC combined. Can you think about that? We just got 3 or 4 shows. We're only here 5 hours a day. And we are clearly now bigger than CNN domestically and MSNBC. We are bigger than any one Fox show with 2, 3, 4 million viewers, their top shows. But look at how arrogant Bill O'Reilly is up there. But I love that fact. And in a year, we'll be bigger than Fox. I mean, that's why the system is panicking, folks. That's why these things are happening, because we're just a bellwether. InfoWars is just one little organization out there that is indicative of the establishment in free fall right now. Now let's go ahead and go to the winner. This video will be posted to Infowars.com in the next few minutes. If you're radio listeners, you can see it for yourself at your leisure. But the winner of the Obama Oval Office speech analysis contest. We'll come up with a better name, I think. I forget the exact name of the contest because I'm just doing these so quick now, but here it is.
Hi, it's Rupert. Today's episode is brought to you by
bugs and killers.
And also, this is my analysis of President Obama's San Bernardino speech. I will start off with the speech's most blatant contradiction.
So far, we have no evidence that the killers were directed by a terrorist organization overseas or that they were part of a broader conspiracy here at home. We see growing efforts by terrorists to poison the minds of people like the Boston Marathon bombers and the San Bernardino killers.
Okay, so which is it? There is or isn't an influence from overseas.
But it is clear that the two of them had gone down the dark path of radicalization.
And where is this exactly? I'm on the internet all the time. I've never seen anything like that, have you? In the next few clips, he's actually reminding us that he is in charge of the military.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no greater responsibility than the security of the American people.
Wait a minute, that sounds a little familiar.
In the process, we've hardened our defenses, from airports to financial centers to other critical infrastructure. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies have disrupted countless plots here and overseas, and worked around the clock to keep us safe.
Oh, yeah, I know where I've heard that before. What's that guy's name? George Bush.
We will destroy ISIL and any other organization that tries to harm us.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a George Bush speech.
First, our military will continue to hunt down terrorist plotters in any country where it is necessary.
And that right there is a very George Bush-like declaration of war on everybody.
Terrorists turn to less complicated acts of violence, like the mass shootings that are all too common in our society.
What he's saying is they've got the airports locked down, but they're still coming for you at the mall.
It is this type of attack that we saw at Fort Hood in 2009.
All right, I guess we can call that a terrorist attack now?
And since the day I took this office, I have authorized U.S. forces to take out terrorists abroad.
Take that, you confused anti-war Obama supporters.
Our closest allies, including France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, together with 65 countries that have joined an American-led coalition.
So we've got a 65-country coalition and a declaration of war on everybody. Can we just go ahead and call this World War III yet?
We will continue to provide training and equipment to tens of thousands of Iraqi and Syrian forces.
I got a better idea. Why don't you try providing people here with training and equipment?
To begin with, Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun.
Really? How is the no-fly list now not the no-gun list? I think we should add a third random thing to the list, like tacos. Hey, man, you want to go get Mexican food? Nah, man, you know I can't. I'm on the no taco list.
We should put in place stronger screening for those who come to America without a visa.
Raise your hand if you didn't know you could do that.
So that we can take a hard look at whether they've traveled to war zones.
Oh, just ask them. I'm sure they'll tell you. Now, even though earlier this week some guy was like,
this guy is such a pussy.
I don't remember George Bush doing. He's actually asking for a declaration of war.
If Congress believes, as I do, that we are at war with ISIL, it should go ahead and vote to authorize the continued use of military force against these terrorists. We should not be drawn once more into a long and costly ground war.
That is code for they're going to spend a lot of money on technology and they are going to bomb the crap out of some people. Then I can't help but feel like he's proselytizing for Islam a bit.
We cannot turn against one another by letting this fight be defined as a war between America and Islam, including millions of patriotic Muslim Americans. The vast majority of terrorist victims around the world are Muslim. We must enlist Muslim communities rather than push them away.
That's cool, but can Christians, Buddhists, and Hindus get a shout out too? Separation of church and state?
Let's not forget that freedom is more powerful than fear, that we have always met challenges, whether war or depression, natural disasters or terrorist attacks, by coming together. I have no doubt that America will prevail.
So it's blatantly obvious to me that this speech is about using the no-fly list as a no-gun list, and it's also a speech about Obama getting ready to use the military in a more massive way than he ever has. I will always refer to this speech as Obama's George Bush speech. He is evoking his power as commander-in-chief. However, it's being done so in such a manner because of his constituency. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching episode 60 of Hi, It's Rupert, which is also a submission to InfoWars. Thanks. See you next time. Bye.
And that's the winner, $1,000. Runner-up, Kenneth Webb, will get a Hillary, Vote for Hillary pin where she laughs at everyone. It's actually her laugh, folks. Very witch-like. And a Hillary for Prison T-shirt. We stopped selling those in 9 days. There may be some left, and then that's it. But we're not producing anymore. That's a limited edition Hillary for Prison shirt. It says Legalize Freedom, Infowars.com on the back. But separate from that, we have free shipping until the 18th when you're guaranteed to get your shipments before Christmas. We have 33% off a new special on Super Male, X2, Nation Iodine, and Silver Bullet. 33% off on top of free shipping. And we also have this special cleanse special where we have 3 items together discounted. The Living Defense, Deep Cleanse, and Oxy Powder. And that's also, what is that, 30-something% off. So that special is running on top of free shipping. And your purchases make this entire broadcast possible. So we can have things like the Make Fun of Hillary contest that will run through the month. We'll announce the winners early next year in the first week of January. So that's only 20-something days away. That's $5,000 for the first place because she's literally threatening to, quote, shut down major comedy clubs if they make fun of her. And, I mean, they actually officially do this. So they're showing you who they are. Don Corleone didn't suppress people's free speech. This is a very Soviet-style, Nazi-style. I don't know what you call it, but, I mean, just please. Is she the star of a zombie movie? She just keeps coming and coming. And I agree with Drudge. I mean, she looks like a reanimated corpse or something. I mean, is she okay? I mean, I hope she's okay. We love Hillary. We're going to be back to play the Kenneth Webb submission and the Anthony Gucciardi. Some stations aren't carrying the 4th hour. Please do. If not, Infowars.com/show to find the free video feeds and audio feeds and spread the word. It's a war. Spread the war. We've got a poll at Infowars.com with 27,000 plus voters. When it comes to world affairs, how do you think 2016 will turn out compared to 2015? 89%, that's how I voted. I didn't know the results. I just voted. 89% believe worse, 24,000 plus people. 1,892 say that it's going to be the same, or 7%. 4% think better. They think it's going to get better. Well, I hope the 4% are right. But me guts tell me it's going to be quite a roller coaster. Let's go to this piece put out by the Change the Channel fella, Kenneth Webb, his analysis of Obama's speech. We're posting all of this right now to Infowars.com so you can carry the ball and spread these videos to others.
Man, oh man, the madness never ends.
Yes, we can.
Barack, what a crop. Obama addressed the nation on Sunday night about keeping our nation safe from ISIL, whatever they're calling them this week. You mean the cats we armed, trained, provided logistics to, open the door wide open for them to come into our country? Come on, man. The audacity of this turd. All right. Just cut to the chase and tell us your brilliant plan. Please. I'm on the edge of my seat in anticipation.
First, our military will continue to hunt down terrorist plotters in any country where it is necessary.
Arm them, bomb them, fund them, neutralize. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Continue on.
Second, we will continue to provide training and equipment to tens of thousands of Iraqi and Syrian forces fighting ISIL on the ground.
You mean the cats that are cutting people's heads off and throwing them on the barbecue? Eating Syrian soldiers' hearts? Kidnapping? Executing? Testing chemical weapons? Spot wild for raping non-Sunni and non-Muslim women? The ones that pledged allegiance to LCIA a couple years ago? Yeah, those cats.
Third, we're working with friends and allies to stop ISIL's operations, to disrupt plots, cut off their financing.
Cut off their financing? What? You know how you do that? Stop giving them our money, you clown.
Fourth, with American leadership, the international community has begun to establish a process and timeline to pursue ceasefires and a political resolution to the Syrian war.
He means as soon as Assad steps down, which means there is no timeline.
This is our strategy to destroy ISIL.
What? Come on, man. That's your brilliant strategy? Get him, Bruce.
Now, here at home.
Oh, crap. Here it comes, people.
To begin with, Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun. What could possibly be the argument for allowing a terrorist suspect to buy a semi-automatic weapon?
Whoa. Let me get this straight. You mean that if you're on a no-fly list, a terrorist watch list, watch being the key word here, people, no one's been watching?
We also need to make it harder for people to buy powerful assault weapons.
Perhaps they should ban pipe bombs also.
Next, we should put in place stronger screening for those who come to America without a visa.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Isn't this the geezer that threatened to veto the refugee bill that would toughen the screening process last month?
Yes, we can. These are the steps that we can take together to defeat the terrorist threat.
Let me interpret. Sit, roll over, come here, stay, fetch, attack, heal, all at the same time. I can sum up your speech in one word: doublethink. Because that's what he expects us to do. What is doublethink? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting them both. Orwell, 1984. Just something to think about. I've changed the channel and I'm out.
Really good job.
Armed, law-abiding citizens of the United States of America. Where the Bill of Rights protects our right to bear arms. And here are the bad guys. People who don't care about any laws or rights and are hell-bent on doing bad things. Here's a gun-free zone, enforced by a sign. Here's us, unarmed, law-abiding citizens in the gun-free zone. And here are the bad guys. Here is us.
Great job, Kenneth Webb. You are runner-up. You get the Hillary shirt for president and the Hillary pin. Anthony Gucciardi and Edward Group straight ahead. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It's the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. I'm Anthony Gucciardi, your host, and I'm joined with Dr. Edward Group. We're going to get into a lot of news throughout this hour and also take your calls on health questions. I'm going to pose a question to you. You know, Time Magazine named Angela Merkel, Chancellor Angela Merkel, as Person of the Year. I'm going to question you on who you would name, and I'm going to tell you who I would name and who Alex would name, and Dr. Group as well. But we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. And the good news is there's actually no such thing, by the way, as internet censorship in China, according to China. China's top censor actually just released a statement. The senior Chinese official known as the gatekeeper of the country's internet has denied that the country censors online information. Liu Wei, chief of state Internet Information Office, said China does not censor but manages internet content. So I have good news for you. There's no such thing as internet censorship in the United States either, or in the world, just anywhere at all. It's only managed. So when you go to post something online, it's blocked or it's taken down on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. That's actually not censorship. Good news, guys. That's just managed content. The government manages it to keep you safe. So that's some uplifting news. But no, seriously, we're going to get into some other news about petition to ban Trump from the UK passes 250K signatures. Could he be actually banned in the United Kingdom? I wonder if that would still hold if he's president. That would be interesting. Google says it has proved its controversial quantum computer really works and it could do math better than a conventional computer. Anonymous couple drops $500,000 into a Salvation Army kettle outside of a small restaurant. We're going to talk about how Putin, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but we're going to expand on how he's going to become a non-GMO dominant exporter. And in Kazakhstan, the internet backdoors you. They want to install some type of a chip or software, I'll have to read into it, and where it tracks everything on your personal devices. This is kind of like a beta test of what some people want to do in the United States, where every single thing you do on your personal device, whether it's a cell phone or a computer or a iPad or whatever, it all goes through the government cloud and it tracks everything you look up, everything you are interested in, everything you like, everything you do. Just tracks you 100% completely. We also have some uplifting news, but Dr. Group is going to talk to us about some really, really important health information on detoxing, on avoiding the average of 5 pounds that we all gain during the holidays, right? And some of the reasons that we're secretly, unknowingly packing on the weight, feeling like crap over the holidays, and what we can actually do about it. So tell us about that.
Now, knowing I was going to be on the show today, I was like, what can I do for people
The holidays are coming up. You know, sometimes I come on the show, we promote the products, which are great, but I really want to give back to everybody and just say, put together a lot of facts and put together some tips that everybody can learn about the holidays and what they can do to be healthy during the holidays, how they can replace some of the toxic foods with some natural foods, how they can reduce their stress levels over the holidays, because I know they're probably going to have parents and, you know, mother-in-laws and everything coming in. So it's not only having a non-toxic holiday season, but it's also, you know, how do you deal with all this stuff that's going on? And so I put together some things that I'd like to share with everybody. A few years ago, Consumer Reports did a survey on what Americans dread the most about the holidays. They dread the most going in debt, dealing with crowds, and gaining weight. And according to the National Cancer of Health statistics, over 30% of American adults are overweight and another 30% are obese.
So in other words, they dread the very thing they are just as much as going into debt. That's pretty hardcore. Gaining 5 pounds is just as bad as going into debt.
Right. The New England Journal of Medicine says the average person gains at least 1 pound each year between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and usually up to 5 pounds. I know everybody's interested in not being able to gain that weight. And when you look at the Thanksgiving, the Christmas holidays, really it starts around Halloween when you get all the candy and you start slowing down because wintertime starts coming in.
And it's fun, though, too. Like, I definitely don't think what we're saying is, oh, you can't enjoy yourself, you can't have these things. Instead, it's just these little secret kind of attacks, these incognito health threats that we don't realize that are in all of this stuff that we can easily get rid of, and you can still enjoy yourself, still have fun, which I'm all about, you know, enjoying yourself in the holidays, but not destroying your body, not gaining 5 to 10 pounds and saying, oh, God, why did I do that? It's not actually that hard.
Yeah, because come January, when you have your New Year's resolution, you'd be like, wow, I actually lost 2 pounds over the holidays.
Right.
So what I looked at was, you know, what are the most common toxic substances that people are going to be exposed to over the holidays? Number one is beverages, and that's going to be your coffee mixes, your eggnog, your different alcoholic drinks, different types of cocktails, soda, eggnog, for example. Now, personally, I don't drink eggnog. I used to as a kid. I liked it, and sometimes I'll buy like the coconut eggnog for the kids or whatever, but I was amazed to find out that traditional eggnog is basically cream, sugar, white sugar, and eggs. And one 16-ounce serving of eggnog contains 500 to 800 calories and 40 grams of fat. One 16-ounce serving. That's without any alcohol added, and that's the equivalent of you eating 4 glazed donuts.
And I don't know about you guys, but I picture everyone drinking about 5 of those 16-ounce glasses of eggnog. Everyone just chugs it all day.
With brandy in it.
Wake up in the morning, let's have some eggnog, you know, and put a little brandy in there and just drink it throughout the day is pretty much it.
The football games are coming on. The food's starting to come out. You're starting to get your eggnog. You're adding the brandy in there. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So I'll tell you, a natural replacement for eggnog is if you go to your natural or organic food store and you can get, it's still high in sugar, but it's still going to be better for you. Coconut eggnog, almond milk eggnog. They make it in like a chocolate mint, and they make it in different flavors. Or better than that, just don't even drink the eggnog and just utilize water, which is another thing that people get dehydrated over the holiday season with all the alcohol and all these sugary drinks that dehydrate you. So one of my recommendations too over the holidays, just make a conscious effort to try to drink more water. You know, just get one of the glass water containers and fill it up and just tell yourself you're going to drink 2 or 3 of those a day. The next thing I have on the list is the sugary drinks and sugar in general. For example, a 16-ounce peppermint white chocolate mocha from Starbucks contains syrups, whipped cream, and chocolate that adds up to 500 calories and 76 grams of sugar.
If you just get rid of the drinks that you're having on a daily basis and replace it with water or just something that's not complete junk, you'll realize that is about, I'd say 70% of people don't realize all of the toxic matter they're taking in and the extra calories and they're getting fat is because of the drinks.
Yeah, because I was looking at all these things and I was just amazed because I know. I mean, I have family members and I have people in my office, unfortunately, that, really get into the Christmas spirit, and they're coming in with their venti mocha, peppermint mocha lattes and stuff, and which have more calories than a cheeseburger, believe it or not.
Mega doses of sugar and milk and, there's sweeteners and stuff. If you get one of those vanilla mocha frappuccinos or whatever it is, it's oftentimes like 2,000 calories. It's like sitting down, eating an entire entree at a restaurant, and people just drink it all day because you don't see the label, you don't actually care. And, I want you to keep going. It also reminds me of this, though. Putin wants Russia to become world's biggest exporter of non-GMO food, but that's not even the most important part. What most people that are covering this haven't realized is perhaps the biggest part is Putin says in this statement, the same one, that the Western food supply is basically crap. He says, we are not only able to feed ourselves, taking into account our land's water resources, Russia is able to become the largest world supplier of healthy, ecologically clean, and high-quality food. This is the important part, which the Western producers have long lost, especially given the fact that demand for such products in the world market is steadily growing. So he says they have clean food, they have ecologically clean food, they have real organic food and high-quality food, which the Western producers have long lost. So isn't it interesting that a world leader, Putin, who many would say should really be Time Magazine Man of the Year in some ways because of many different fronts, because of his massive publicity, and he's kind of outshined Obama in many ways, is saying that the Western food supply is essentially dead, devoid of any high-quality, ecologically clean and healthy food, devoid of any good organic food. And he says that Russia is going to step up and become the #1 exporter of non-GMO organic food. This is from RT, Russia Today. That is his pivotal point in saying that the Western food supply is so dead that he's going to step up and take it over. Is that not a huge attack and a glaring reality that our food supply is so destroyed that Putin from Russia is going to come in and say that the U.S. has lost it, and he's going to have a main point of his entire really career, it seems like, be the fact that they have real food again? Is that not the final testament of everything we're saying is true? All those so-called people saying, oh, well, it's actually fine, and the research has been clear, everything is fine. I mean, come on. So a foreign leader has to come in and retake our food supply for us?
Well, maybe people will wake up and listen. A bunch of people are sweating bullets right now throughout Monsanto and throughout our government and throughout the USDA and the FDA. I mean, listen, we should have done that a long time ago. We should have never allowed all these chemicals in genetically modified foods. I mean, it's great that one country's stepping up. It's great that most of the other countries around the world.
But it's horrible that Russia has to come in and tell us that our food supply is dead. We should know that. We should be taking steps. But it just shows the dead, just not even incompetency, but the unwillingness to act on the U.S. politician side as the corporations just loot and pillage everything. I mean, everything you're reading on there is not because people are stupid. How dare you not know that you're getting that in your eggnog? We don't know these things. A lot of us just go out and they have fun and they order whatever's on the menu. They're not always requesting the exact calorie counts. It's these corporations that are pushing it on us, making it sound healthy and destroying our health. We're going to talk about how we can avoid the rest of these holiday traps, some more news about whether or not Trump is going to be banned from the UK, and much more. We'll be right back. This is The Alex Jones Show. Welcome back. It's The Alex Jones Show. This is the 4th hour. I'm Anthony Gucciardi. We're going to take some of your calls at 1-800-259-9231, 1-800-259-9231. And I want to get your health questions for Dr. Group, but I want everyone that calls to also answer me this. Today, Time Magazine named German Chancellor Angela Merkel the Person of the Year. Now, to give you a little bit of a timeline, I printed out the previous year's chosen people. 2014 were the Ebola fighters, the medical professionals who battled the disease in Africa and elsewhere for, quote, tireless acts of courage and mercy, for buying the world time to boost its defenses. 2013 was Pope Francis, for the first non-European pope in 1,200 years, poised to transform a place that measures change by the century. 2012 was President Obama, and 2011 was the protesters of the Arab Spring, and 2010 was Mark Zuckerberg. And again, this year is Angela Merkel. I want to hear your take on who you would choose, if you had the ability, as the Person of the Year. I also want your health questions for Dr. Group, and then I'll tell you who I would choose, who Alex would choose, and Dr. Group can tell you who he would choose as well. Before we get into more with Dr. Group, I also want to talk about this story. Petition to ban Trump from UK passes 250,000 signatures and could be debated in Parliament. This is from CNN. A petition calling for Donald Trump to be banned from entering the UK has attracted more than 250,000 signatures, more than enough for a committee to consider sending the motion for parliamentary debate. The petition to block the front-running Republican presidential candidate from entering the country was created on the British government's official petitions website in response to Trump's call Monday to ban Muslims from entering the country until Obama did something about it. Of course, it was misquoted over and over again in the media. Now, if this is anything like the whitehouse.gov petitions, where if you get like 150,000 or whatever it is, they have to review it, it's pretty much a joke. And in that I've done some. I know Alex had a number of successful petitions that hit the limit, like ban Piers Morgan or whatever it was. But they usually just respond with, oh, we looked at it and nothing's going to happen. So we'll see what happens with this. But could you imagine if they actually banned Donald Trump from the UK? And then can you imagine if he actually became president and he was still banned from the UK? So as the calls come in, I want to have Dr. Group just go through a few more ways that you can really avoid the weight gain, the toxic intake during the holidays, and just whenever really in your life. Some of the most important secrets. Then we're going to go to your calls and cover some more news, some uplifting news, some quantum mechanic news on Google's new supercomputer that can do math. It's a lot of interesting stuff. But Dr. Group?
Well, I'm looking forward to taking some calls. But another thing that came up that I wanted to let people know about is alcohol consumption over the holidays. If you are going to be consuming, most people consume 2 to 3 times the amount of alcohol. There's a lot of hangovers during the holidays, and a lot of people reach for the Tylenol, the acetaminophen. It's been shown that that can cause permanent liver damage. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that, first of all, they should reduce their alcohol content. If they can't do that, they should drink more water. But if you do have headaches, be very careful taking acetaminophen with alcohol.
I got to tell you, acetaminophen is bad.
It is bad. Children die from that. Children
they die from it.
That. The liver failure. Their liver goes into failure.
It's so for the record, and not making any claims against certain brands, but the brands that have acetaminophen, oftentimes, even in small doses, there's been deaths. Acetaminophen is extremely hepatotoxic, toxic to the liver, and then what people don't realize is they're drinking, and I've seen people do this. I had to stop them from doing it. They'll be out drinking the night before, and they'll say, oh, well, I'll just pop this pill, a brand name pill with acetaminophen in it, and I'll be fine. No. If you are taking it with alcohol, you're damaging your liver. And then if you wake up and you're still drunk or you have a hangover or whatever, you're damaging it still. It cannot be taken with alcohol at all. So many people actually die from that.
Here's the thing. If you don't change your diet at all and you continue doing every single thing you normally do during the holiday season, then at least take some X2 iodine, which is going to help you detoxify. Take some deep cleanse. Take some oxy powder and just supplement. I mean, right there alone, you're going to be taking care of the majority of the problems, and drinking more water and reducing your stress levels over the holidays. That's many solutions that people can put into place. And the other great solution is just eat organic food and don't buy all the boxed and canned ingredients for Christmas. Look at stuffing, for example. I mean, if you read the ingredients on a stuffing box from the store, it's this long. The gravies all contain MSG. All the powdered gravies that you mix have MSG in them. Just go back to the old school way of doing things and eat healthy and cook your own Christmas dinner with organic ingredients.
And it's cheaper, too. People always say, well, I can't afford organic. Well, if you buy the actual raw materials, it's much easier. We'll be back with your calls and more news. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Anthony Gucciardi on the 4th Hour. You know, we've got free shipping on the InfoWarsStore.com for, as far as I know, the next few days, this week. I'm not sure how far Alex is going to extend it. It was actually turned off for a while. We've also got the Essentials Pack, which includes X2, Super Male Vitality or Super Female Vitality, and Silver Bullet, the 3 essential InfoWars Life products that are a great gift, or if you're just getting into it or if you want to stock up, for an unprecedented 33% off retail. This is Alex's specials that he's just launched today. This is the Essentials Pack for 33% off retail at InfoWars Store and InfoWarsLife.com. We've got the Cleanse Pack, which is my favorite for the holidays. Deep Cleanse, Living Defense, which is the harmful organism cleanser, and Oxy Powder, which is the colon cleansing product, for 28% off retail. And then we've got Winter Sun Vitamin D3 for 15% off. The first ever sale on Deep Cleanse by itself for 17% off, which is the best all-in-one cleanser. I mean, instead of buying 5, 6, 7 different cleansing products, Deep Cleanse is my pick. So all of these are up right now on InfoWarsLife.com, on InfoWarsStore.com. And that's, again, 33% off retail on just the Essentials Pack, 28% off retail on the Cleanse Pack. Now's the time to stock up and give it a shot. Or if you're like me, it makes a great gift for your friends who say, hey, I always feel like crap. I'm always tired. I don't know what to do. Take this pack, give it a shot, and see why it has an average of 4.8 across the 5,000+ reviews. Many of the products have even higher, or 4.5, around that area. They're really, really super high quality. Group makes them for a reason, because they work. Let's go to some calls. Let's jump right into David in New Hampshire. What's up, David?
Hey, guys. I was just calling in because I had heard earlier Alex talking a lot about what's going on with the politics, but now you guys are talking about the holidays. You're talking about the stresses and the food and the sugar and everything that people eat in the holidays, but this point ties in with that, and it ties in with the fact that people have an electrical, bioelectrical body. Our bodies are based off of the electricity and the energy that goes through them. And people are kept on a level of fear-based and emotional-based and sexual-based ideas. And the reason why we like to eat so much during the holidays is because it's an emotional thing. Eating is an emotional thing. Anybody who's done a cleanse knows that eating becomes a very emotional thing. And when you don't eat with everybody else, you realize how much you become codependent in relationships and other things. So I bring this point out to say that until we as a people, as a society, can grab a hold of our emotions, understand who we are as sexual beings and also as emotional beings and spiritual beings, we'll continue the same patterns. It doesn't matter if you alarm someone to the dangers of fluoride or the dangers of corn syrup. It's like until they understand themselves as a spiritual entity, as something that can function 100% completely healthily, you're going to have these issues. But yeah,
David, that was beautifully said, and I would agree with a lot of that. And in fact, I agree with all of it, except for the part that you can't warn people and you can't wake them up, because I'm here to tell you that you really can. And there is obviously a really, really deep core thing that we have to realize, that sure, we're human beings. We have a power. We have a human spirit, whatever you want to call it. We have consciousness, whatever you want to believe. And obviously, a lot of the things that we do are because we're in a charged emotional fight or flight state, or in a fear-based state from watching the mainstream media. I call it feeding your brain Cheese Whiz, right? You wouldn't eat Cheese Whiz every day, so why do we treat our content consumption so much differently than our food consumption? I wouldn't sit here and eat Lay's potato chips or whatever type of potato chips, Doritos, whatever, for every day for 12 hours, just like I wouldn't watch the mainstream media or American Idol every single day for 12 hours. I wouldn't personally, but some people do. And when they have that content stream coming in their brain, feeding their brain junk, the Cheese Whiz of content, they get into a poor state. They hear only about the terrorism and the fights, and Obama coming on television saying, ISIS is going to get you if you don't turn in your guns. We fight back with the counter information, and I try to get a positive solution-based thing, and Alex does too, constantly, all the time, and fighting back against all of that. And it can get tiresome. It can feel like a lot. It can make you want to give up sometimes, but the truth is you have to keep going on, and that's what you're saying, and I agree with you, right? But I also say, give people some more chance than that, right? Because we're waking them up about this. They might learn about the fluoride. They might learn about any of this stuff and then say, wow, I really want to learn more and make a change. And how many people have I seen that happen to, including myself, right? Because I was never just magically awake, magically conscious. I knew all this stuff. It was, I was a standard, quote unquote, normal person that would drink my eggnog or whatever you want to call it, without knowing what I was doing. So I believe in everyone. I believe in their ability to rise up 100%. But what you said was beautiful. And I want to get Dr. Group's take on this. But I have one final question. Who is your time person of the year, if you could choose one? David.
Of the year? Time person of the year? Just only two people come up in my head right now.
Who's that?
It would either be Donald Trump or it would be Putin. And it's just because you have two of these people who understand what's going on in the world to a certain extent, And with Trump, I have fears of greater military expansion and Putin the same thing. But at least they understand that.
Well, David, thank you. Right on. And I apologize cutting you off, but the music of the children in the back was very beautiful. But I'm not, some listeners might not enjoy it as much. But Dr. Group, tell me your take on that. And by the way, those are two great choices. I mean, you just have to look at it.
No, I mean, I know David knows what he's talking about, and that is the main goal. I mean, the main goal is to change the world and help as many people as we can and bring back the consciousness and let people know who they are really inside. And I can tell you that by cleansing the body, looking at what causes fear, because again, it's all about what is the root cause of our problem here. What causes fear? What causes depression? What causes all these things that create the desire for addiction? Food is more addictive than drugs. People don't even realize that. Alcohol kills more people. Food kills more people than drugs do. Gluten and wheat contain opiates. They're addictive. That's why people get addicted to bread and addicted to foods. It makes you feel good.
Sugar
makes you feel good.
Cocaine. It's been
exactly. So, but I can tell you after evaluating hundreds of thousands of people that have gone through cleansing, that the positive thing, the positive outlook that people have, you changed your life when you were suffering with disease and you found natural medicine. I grew up on TV dinners and, Coca-Cola and the worst food and diets that you could imagine. I had acne all over my face, and I changed my life. You changed your life. People every single day are changing their life, even if they're doing it one step at a time. If there's a massive staircase that goes all the way down to cancer and disease and goes all the way up to perfect health, you don't have to take and jump 100 steps at a time. It's about a daily change. As a matter of fact, that's what I recommend. Next time you need to buy salt for your home, don't buy table salt, buy Himalayan crystal salt. Next time you need to buy deodorant, don't buy aluminum-based deodorant, buy natural deodorant. Yes, it's in most of the cases it's not as good. You might have to apply it 2 times a day, but you're making baby steps, you're making changes, and you're educating yourself, and you're doing what your body wants you to do. And believe it or not, you will become more conscious that way. When you detoxify the body, look at what causes depression and addiction. Fluoride causes calcification of your pineal gland. It causes depressive-like symptoms. It causes non-aggressiveness. When you look at BPA, fluoride, mercury, cadmium, aluminum, lead, all the phthalates, the BPAs, all of these different types of chemicals, yes, they do affect your brain. They make you to the point where you are unhappy. And that's why the psychological industry is so profitable. And that's why the pharmaceutical companies are focusing the majority of their marketing dollars on anxiety, depression, and stress and everything else, because there's no clinical testing needed to prescribe these medications.
Even though for years we've been telling you it's all in the gut. I mean, you've said it for 20 plus years. I'm just a little mimicker, really, but I'm reading the studies and I found out for myself independently and realized you're saying the same thing. But geez, the studies proving that mental illness starts in the gut. And a lot of people also say, well, I'll also prove that your real consciousness, your real intellectual expansion, whatever you want to call it, has a biological aspect. Because most people that feel anxiety and depression, they don't even realize that could be a biological factor as opposed, a physical health gut factor as opposed to a mental factor. And a lot of it is a gut imbalance. So it's like your body can either help you or can be an anchor pulling you down. And when people's bodies aren't in alignment, they're totally jacked up. And thanks to these corporations that don't care, by the way, the true culprits of all this, when they're totally just bloated and feeling like crap, how are they supposed to be sitting there having an intellectual revolution? It's just not going to happen. The gut is contaminated and destroyed. It's leading to mental illness. It's leading to memory loss. It's just all these horrible things. So overall, I 100% agree. It starts really with the body and cleansing, which is what we're all talking about. Let's go to Jim. He wants to talk about cleansing. Jim in Florida, what's on your mind? Hey, Jim, can you hear us? Your phone working? All right, Jim, thank you for your call. Unfortunately, your phone is not working right now. Let's talk to Stefan, I believe, in Washington, wants to talk about bloating and feeling out of it and possibly cleansing as well. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, so I'm normal weight everywhere except on my stomach, especially in the evening. I'm like a pregnant woman walking around. So what do you have?
Well, do you consume alcohol?
No.
Okay, so if you don't drink, then normally if you have some bloating in the afternoon, for men, if you have that extra weight around your waist, most likely your liver is congested. There's a few different things, so we'll talk about each. Your liver is congested, and you need to do a liver cleanse, maybe 1, 2, or 3 liver cleanses, because that means your liver is not processing and metabolizing the fats effectively. And without getting into your whole dietary habits and everything else, iodine deficiency is another cause of weight gain around the waist in males. It could also be associated with a B12 deficiency, a vitamin D deficiency. But with continued cleansing, going back to what Anthony said, the gut, how important the gut is. It's amazing how many symptoms mysteriously disappear, not mysteriously, but because the body actually has the necessary tools to heal itself when you fix the gut. The gut is the biodome. It's like the soil of the earth. You know, when in soil, you have microorganisms, right, that cause the plant to grow and thrive. In the gut, you have microorganisms. A lot of them actually are soil-based microorganisms that live in your gut. What those organisms do, we call them probiotics. And prebiotics are what probiotics eat. The prebiotics are different types of foods and inulin and oligosaccharides that the probiotics feed on. When you have the proper balance of probiotics in your gut, that will reduce some of the gas, reduce some of the bloating. Believe it or not, your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut that keep you happy. It's serotonin, melatonin, things like that. So the first step that I always take with anybody, regardless of what condition they're suffering from, is to clean and repair the gut. You know, clean it out really good with the oxy powder. Use a good probiotic formula, repair all that. Of course, slowly change their diet at the same time, but thyroid issues really can cause excessive weight gain in different areas of the body, in men usually around the waist. So I would definitely look at possibly supplementing with an iodine supplement such as X2.
And of course, none of this is medical advice.
Yes.
I'll also say that you should be thankful you're getting these signs and symptoms, because I used to have that a long time ago. And then I started really feeling more depressed and feeling more anxiety and feeling like crap, and the bloating wasn't there as much. This is the beginning, in my view, again, not medical advice, of something that you can start potentially fixing. Thank you so much for your call. We're going to go to Stephen in Florida. He wants to talk about digestion, and he wants to talk about Person of the Year. And I want to finish up this call and get into who we choose as Person of the Year and talk about some of that as well. So, Stephen, first of all, who is your Person of the Year?
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, I've got an East versus West. I've really got two. If it was a matter of East, I would have to nominate Vladimir Putin, because this man, like Alex Jones says, has really taken the moral high ground. He stepped up. He sent multiple messages to the globalists that he's not going to let them run him with his attacks on ISIS. What I consider not just sword rattling, he'll make good what he's saying with his threats. And rightly so, but also this latest news about what he said, sending a message to the people with the biotech so-called industry like Monsanto about organics. This is a really bombshell information, and I hope that he is able to do that. On the Western side, I would have to nominate Alex Jones, because I think of anybody in America, he has really stepped up. And I know he says he's not a hero, but he is a modern-day Paul Revere and among the founding fathers of that ilk. And so that's the two that I would nominate equally.
Well, I think those are two great choices. And, when you talk about Putin, he wants to become an exporter of non-GMO food. He talks about the Western food supply dying. He constantly just criticizes all the really, really good points that he brings up in the United States. Obviously, he has some issues as well. You can talk about Alex. He's in here every day, 3 hours on the radio show. And what you don't see is the 5+ hours he works every single day off the air. And he's 100% dedicated, 100% real. And I totally stand behind that choice as well. So actually, if you want to ask your question on the digestive tract real quick, Stephen, go ahead and burst it out.
Yeah, I've got a friend that had recently, she's been diagnosed with, I think it's celiac disease, and she had to go to the hospital after an attack in her bowel. She had 7 feet of her intestines removed. She lost a lot of weight, still recovering at home. But what I wanted to find out is this, with the cleansing systems that Dr. Group that you've developed, like the oxy powder and the liver cleanse, et cetera, would you recommend those to someone like that? Because her doctors are having her on a special, basically liquefied diet. She can't have anything solid. But do you think that would help her or be, harmful to her in her situation?
Let me also just jump in and say, once again, this is not medical advice. So we're not giving medical advice to your friend. She should obviously speak to a qualified healthcare professional that is able to see her and physically see her. I mean, Dr. Group's just sitting here, listen to a vague example of the story.
Which
so you should see a doctor for sure.
I can't stand the regulations because it's just, you can't tell somebody something that works 100% of the time. So it's just crazy, the regulations they're coming down with, and it's all done by design. They're really trying to push out the natural medicine. I mean, that's what we had 3,000 years ago, right. Okay? And now they're just trying, there's just attack after attack after attack on stuff that actually works and gets people better. So if I had celiac disease, this is what I would do. Number one is I would
20 seconds.
Number one is I would cleanse, and I would cleanse with oxy powder, and I would repair the probiotics in my gut. I would also take the X2, and you can feel free to contact my office as well. I do have a support program for celiac disease, or repairing the gut, or rebalancing the intestinal tract. The medical profession has 3 options: drug, cut, or burn. And I'm sorry to hear that they cut out the intestines because, once again, they're not working on fixing the root cause.
We'll be right back with the next segment. We'll reveal Alex's Time Person of the Year choice. Welcome back to the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. I'm Anthony Gucciardi, joined with Dr. Edward Group. And we're talking about who we would choose for Time Person of the Year. And I'm going to explain Alex's choice as well. And Dr. Group here is going to tell you. So Time Magazine, in case you didn't hear, today named German Chancellor Angela Merkel as the Person of the Year. Previous ones include the Ebola fighters, Pope Francis, President Obama, the protester for Arab Spring that lit himself on fire, and Mark Zuckerberg. Some interesting choices. Some I can understand. Some are quite interesting, like Pope Francis and Mark Zuckerberg, and obviously Obama. But we took a number of calls, and some of the callers said they chose Putin, Trump, Alex, and I think that was it. Mm-hmm. Dr. Group, who is your choice for Time Person of the Year, if you could magically choose it?
Well, first of all, I don't really agree that much with the Time Person of the Year, but I would have to, since it's not technically a Person of the Year, I would have to give that award to all of the individual activists that have posted information on YouTube, that have gone out to the March Against Monsanto, the rallies, all the people out there that are educating everybody else against the tyranny that's out there today. I mean, it's stuff that we work for every single day. And it's, somebody asked me, why don't you get in politics and why don't you be a senator? And I said, do you know how change happens? Okay, we wouldn't have the non-GMO verified seal if it wasn't for the public speaking out and us and the public refusing to buy things. It's the activism and it's the people that create more change. Look, organic foods, look at all the different changes, getting fluoride out of the water, all the activism there, all the education, all the videos that are going up everywhere, all the newsletters that are going out educating people, all the people that are dedicating their life every single day, working 8 hours, 12 hours a day to try to change the world, make the world a better place to be, cleaning up the air quality, cleaning up the water quality, educating people on how they can become healthy and change their lives.
It's all
grassroots efforts. That's how change happens. It's not going to change in government.
That's right. That's right. That's an amazing choice. And so Alex's choice, we just briefly asked him the question before we walked in, so he could probably give a better explanation perhaps on the show. But he chose Donald Trump, and I totally get why. Not only is Trump standing against political correctness, but the mainstream media hates him. And he's standing up against them really as a third party against the GOP establishment, against all establishments. He is an anti-establishment, self-made man that can pretty much say whatever he stands for and not have to care. And that is really admirable in many ways, even if you don't agree with his politics. Imagine that, someone that can sit there, and he tweets some hardcore stuff. Definitely calling people dummies is not along the line of the mainstream media establishment that locks everyone into this political correctness. For me, you know, I think that's a great choice, and I think yours is an amazing choice as well. I would have to say that Matt Drudge 100% deserves to be Time Person of the Year. If not this year, then, you know, next year. Because you think about it, all these people are doing amazing things. Yes, Trump, you know, does some pretty amazing things, standing up for the right ways, even if you don't believe in many of his politics, the activists, all this stuff. But where does it all go to? It goes to the bullhorn of reality. Where do you go for news? Where do you go to see what, you know, Trump said or what Putin did or wherever you go? You go to Drudge Report every single day, and you sit there and you let it refresh for 8 hours while you're at the workplace or wherever you are. And it's kind of a behind the scenes thing, right? There's no photos of Matt Drudge, there's no videos. He's a behind the scenes guy, but he's giving it all to you and feeding it in a way that makes sense. And it's a succinct bullhorn of reality. So I would choose 100% Matt Drudge, and I salute him for all he has done. This is the Alex Jones Show. Alex will be back live from 11 to 2 tomorrow. I'm Anthony Gucciardi. Dr. Group, thanks so much for joining us, and all have an amazing day. We'll see you again tomorrow.